Chapter 4990. The Heaven Refining Blood Prison Array was Ling Tian Palace's trump card. Bai Feng once used this array to annihilate an overseas demonic cult. In that battle, the headquarters of the overseas devil cult, an island with a circumference of dozens of miles, was directly refined by Bai Feng overnight with the blood prison heaven refining formation, and countless devil cult followers died tragically. This peerless demonic array that could refine an island couldn't even refine the defensive array of a small West Gorge city. Bai Feng was shocked, angry, and afraid. Could it be that Gu Fei's array, Dao cultivation, was far above his? However, he was very unwilling. Ling Tian Palace's array, Dao, was #1 in the world. How could it be that they couldn't even deal with a nobody? However, facts spoke louder than words. He, Bai Feng, couldn't break Gu Fei's array. Damn it! Bai Feng, who was sitting cross-legged in the void, roared continuously. Countless array runes rushed out from his body and branded the surrounding void. The power of the heaven refining blood prison array continued to increase. The heaven and earth spiritual energy of the entire region gathered towards the heaven refining blood prison array. However, by forcibly activating the killing array, the pressure that Bai Feng had to bear also multiplied. There was a limit to one's strength. No matter how powerful Bai Feng was, if he forcefully increased the power of the killing array, he would be in danger of exploding at any time. At this time, Gu Fei still didn't make a move. Even though the blood fire outside the defensive array was monstrous, it couldn't refine the defensive array. Ever since the array disk of the defensive array appeared, the defensive barrier of West Gorge City had never weakened. "Is that all you have?" Gu Fei said to Bai Feng with some disappointment. Ling Tian Palace's array, Dao, was only SO. This killing array wasn't very terrifying. Bai Feng was infuriated by Gu Fei. His body swayed, and he almost fell from the sky. "All right, if this is all you have, you can die now." Gu Fei sat on the chair and said indifferently, "You want to kill me? With just you?" Bai Feng really thought that he heard wrong. This guy actually wanted to kill him. Didn't this guy know that he was a disciple of Ling Tian Palace? Me. After saying that, Gu Fei charged out from the top of the city wall. He passed through the sphere of divine light that enveloped the entirety of West Gorge City and appeared outside the great defensive array. Master! Master! Xiaoya, the red-browed Eagle King, and the others on top of the city wall were shocked when they saw this scene. Haha, since you're courting death, don't blame me. When Bai Feng saw that Gu Fei had actually charged out of the city guarding Grand Formation, he couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. In the next moment, with a command in his heart, boundless blood-colored devilish flames burned towards Gu Fei. "Today, I'll show you what a formation is." After saying that, Gu Fei's body shook. In the next moment, array runes rushed out from his body one after another to form a large array around him. Countless devilish flames that burned towards Gu Fei were instantly devoured by the void around him and disappeared without a trace. At this moment, Gu Fei seemed to have suddenly turned into a bottomless black hole, crazily devouring the power of the blood prison heaven refining grand formation around him. What? When Bai Feng saw this, he was really shocked. The other party could actually devour the power of his blood prison heaven refining grand formation. What kind of cultivation technique was this? "You can go on your way." Gu Fei suddenly disappeared in the void. In the next moment, when he reappeared, he was already above Bai Feng's head. Without hesitation, he directly stepped on Bai Feng from the sky. Bai Feng was like a meteorite falling from the sky. With a boom, he directly smashed onto the ground. The ground shook, and a cloud of dust rose into the air. A large pit was formed on the ground. Seeing this scene, Long Xiaozhou was dumbfounded. No one knew better than her how strong and terrifying this sixth senior brother was. This sixth senior brother was actually stepped down from the sky by Gu Fei. This made her feel as though she was in an illusion. Everything was so unreal. After Gu Fei stepped by Feng from the sky, he crazily devoured the power of the blood prison, heaven, refining, grand formation. The power was extremely huge. Very quickly, a blood-colored vortex formed around his body. When the big shots who were watching the battle saw this, their eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. This Gu Fei is actually devouring the power of the demonic formation? When Wu Ying, one of the 8 great witch kings of the sorcerer tribe, saw this, he was shocked. He had bet that Gu Fei would lose, but now Gu Fei would not lose at all. Haha, Wu Ying, you're going to eat dirt. The king of chaos was happy and proud. When Wu Ying heard this, his face instantly turned extremely ugly. How is this possible? At this moment, Ling Tian Palace's disciple Bai Feng, who climbed out of the large pit on the ground, raised his head and saw this scene. He was so agitated that he spat out a mouthful of blood. The power that he had painstakingly gathered actually became someone else's. This made him so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. At this moment, the power of the blood prison heaven, refining grand formation, was quickly devoured by Gu Fei. Dazzling divine light shone from his body, and the entire blood prison was collapsing. The power of the 49 blood prison demonic flags was also forcibly devoured by Gu Fei into his body and refined into his own vitality. Roar! Gu Fei could not help but roar into the sky. The terrifying sound waves spread in all directions, and the entire void shook. His cultivation had long reached a bottleneck, but he still suppressed it and did not want to break through the current cultivation realm. This puzzled many people. If Gu Fei's cultivation broke through to the Emperor realm, it would be enough for him to establish a world that belonged to him in South China. He could even replace Man Huang and chase him away. All of you, come over here. The devouring power on Gu Fei's body became stronger. He roared, and the 49 blood prison demonic flags flew up and directly flew towards him. When the 49 blood prison demonic flags flew towards Gu Fei, they quickly shrunk and were caught in his hand. Bai Feng spat out another mouthful of blood when he saw the scene. Those were 49 blood hellish devil flags. Moreover, these devil flags didn't belong to him. After losing the demonic flags, Bai Feng would definitely be punished when he returned to the towering Heaven Palace. However, a scene that shocked Bai Feng appeared. He saw that the 49 blood prison demonic flags were actually crushed by Gu Fei with a single grab. The extremely huge blood prison power that erupted from the blood prison demonic flags was also devoured by him. Awesome! Gu Fei felt the tyrannical power swimming in his body. At this moment, he even felt that he could punch through the heaven and earth. Right now, he could even put up a fight against an Emperor Realm expert. This guy is simply a monster. Chapter 4991. To Gu Fei, the power gathered by Bai Feng's heaven-refining blood prison formation was a great supplement. What he lacked now was power. His cultivation had already broken through to the infinite prime realm. His cultivation had only been suppressed by the laws of the world in the void realm. Once he recovered his infinite prime cultivation, who in the entire void realm could be his opponent. However, it was easier said than done for Gu Fei to recover his cultivation. Even if he devoured the power of the entire heaven-refining blood prison formation, he would only recover a portion of his cultivation. Haha, it's been a long time since I felt so good. Gu Fei stood in the air. He stretched, and a sonic boom rang out from his body. Everyone who witnessed this scene was extremely shocked. This Gu Fei was simply a monster. He actually destroyed the heaven-refining blood prison formation all by himself. He swallowed the power of the entire blood prison heaven-refining grand array. Bai Feng was so angry that he vomited blood. Close the city gates. The Black Dragon King immediately ordered the city gates to be closed. He then activated the city protecting formation. This city protecting formation was set up by Long Xiaozhou when he arrived. This city protecting formation was not bad, but it was far inferior to Gu Fei's formation. They were not on the same level at all. However, the Black Dragon King did not care so much at this time. He was afraid that Gu Fei would take advantage of the situation and kill his way to the West Garrison City. After all, the West Garrison City was less than 10 kilometers away from the West Gorge City. For Gu Fei, it was a distance that he could reach in the blink of an eye. "Congratulations on your cultivation, master. Congratulations on your cultivation, master." On the city walls, Xiao Ye, the red-browed Eagle King, and the others were surprised and overjoyed when they saw this. Gu Fei did not say anything. He directly took a step and arrived above Baifeng. He looked down at the once arrogant disciple of the Ling Tian Palace. "What, you're not convinced?" Gu Fei sneered. Baifeng was both shocked and furious, but at this time he didn't dare offend Gu Fei at all. He still wanted to live for a few more years. However, Gu Fei had no intention of attacking Jinqi City. "I heard people say that the people from Ling Tian Palace are very powerful. It seems like they are all lies." Gu Fei shook his head. "What did you say?" Baifeng was furious when he heard this. "Haha, isn't it?" Gu Fei laughed. "I'm just a small disciple of Ling Tian Palace. Don't leave if you have the guts." Baifeng was infuriated. "Are you looking for help? Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. I'll wait here for you for 3 days." Gu Fei turned around and returned to the top of West Gorge City's city wall. "Good, very good." Baifeng did not even bother to return to Western Garrison City. Ling Tian Palace had a transcendent status in the Void Realm. However, no one knew where the mountain gate of Ling Tian Palace was located. Over the years, countless people had tried to find the mountain gate of Ling Tian Palace. However, apart from the disciples of Ling Tian Palace, outsiders simply couldn't find the mountain gate of Ling Tian Palace. Some people said that the mountain gate of Ling Tian Palace wasn't even in the Void Realm, but in the sky. Void Realm, outer sky. On a huge mountain floating in the void, pavilions could be faintly seen, and the aura of the immortal Tao lingered. "Master, you have to seek justice for us." In a courtyard halfway up the giant mountain that floated in outer space, a man knelt down in front of a pavilion in the courtyard. This was the place where the array formation ancestor of Ling Tian Palace lived in seclusion. "Scram! Don't disturb Master's cultivation." A figure appeared silently in the courtyard and shouted at the person kneeling on the ground. "Eldest senior brother." That person was instantly shocked. The person who came was the first disciple of the array formation ancestor, the array formation grandmaster named Han Tao. He was a true array formation grandmaster. Ling Tian Palace's array formation ancestor, Tianhong, was one of the 3 patriarchs of Ling Tian Palace. His array formation Tao cultivation was unfathomable. He had 7 disciples in his lifetime, and each of them was an expert in the array formation Tao. Eldest senior brother Han Tao was the only one among the 7 disciples of ancestor Tianhong who had cultivated to the array formation grandmaster realm. The person who knelt and begged ancestor Tianhong to come out was Baifeng. "Why aren't you scramming?" Han Tao was a little impatient. "Eldest senior brother, do you know that a madman has appeared in Southern Man? That person doesn't even care about the array formation Tao of Ling Tian Palace." Baifeng said to his eldest senior brother, Han Tao, with tears and snot running down his face. What? Han Tao couldn't help but be furious. In this void realm, there was actually someone who dared to not care about the array formation Tao of Ling Tian Palace? That person said that even if Master personally attacked, he would be able to beat Master into a pig's head. Baifeng dared to say anything in order to invite his master, ancestor Tianhong. "What did you say?" Han Tao was furious. That person actually dared to offend his master. He deserved to die. "Where is that guy? I will go and kill him." Han Tao gritted his teeth and said, "That person is in Southern Man's West Gorge City. His name is Gu Fei." When Baifeng saw Han Tao getting angry, He couldn't help but be secretly happy. Swish! Han Tao's figure instantly disappeared on the spot. Even Bai Feng didn't see clearly how Han Tao disappeared. Humph! Gu Fei! Even if it's only eldest senior brother, you will still die. Bai Feng's eyes turned vicious. In his opinion, no matter how powerful Li Kuang was, it was impossible for him to be a match for eldest senior brother, who was an array formation grandmaster. Soon, Han Tao arrived at Southern Man and found West Gorge City. Gu Fei, come out and die. Han Tao shouted in front of the city gate of West Gorge City. His voice spread throughout the entire city. How dare you! Presumptuous! On top of the city wall, Xiao Ye and Red-Browed Eagle King were furious. Humph! Han Tao sneered and patted a bag on his waist. In the next moment, a cloud of black fog rushed out of the gourd and turned into a black dragon that pounced toward Xiao Ye and the others on top of the city wall. However, when it was less than 30 feet away from the top of the city wall, the black dragon directly exploded, as if it had suddenly crashed into an invisible wall. Array? Han Tao sneered. In the next moment, countless black fog rushed out of his bag and directly rushed towards the West Gorge City's City Defense Grand Array. This kind of black fog could actually corrode the West Gorge City's City Defense Grand Array. The layer of divine light that emerged from the City Defense Grand Array actually dimmed. Humph! That Bai Feng is trash. He can't even break such an array. Han Tao had always looked down on Bai Feng. Who do you think you are? At this time, Gu Fei leisurely came to the top of the city wall. You are Gu Fei? Han Tao sneered. This guy is really crazy and arrogant. I will never change my name. I am indeed Gu Fei. Chapter 4992. Gu Fei thought that the people from Ling Tian Palace were powerful, but it turned out that in front of Gu Fei, the people from Ling Tian Palace were simply dregs. After Bai Feng lost to Gu Fei in array formation, he left South Barbarian and rushed back to the sect to ask for help from the array formation experts in the sect. Who would have thought that the array formation Grand Elder, Tianhong, would go into closed-door cultivation? Bai Feng used his words to create hatred for Gu Fei, deliberately adding salt and vinegar in front of his eldest senior brother Han Tao, saying how Gu Fei looked down on Ling Tian Palace's array formation and how he insulted their master. In this way, eldest senior brother Han Tao was furious. He immediately left Ling Tian Palace and went straight to South Barbarian. Kill! Without any nonsense, Han Tao directly punched at the top of the city wall. The violent fist force erupted, and a mass of divine light appeared in the void, blocking Han Tao's fist force. On the divine light, there were only a few transparent ripples. Array! Han Tao was an array formation grandmaster. A resplendent divine light erupted from his eyes as he surveyed his surroundings. He saw that the entire West Gorge City was enveloped by densely packed array runes. The array eye of the West Gorge City's Great Array Formation was the position of the array board in the sky. In other words, as long as the Great Array Formation's array board was broken, the array in front of him would collapse on its own. An entire array would dissipate into the void. However, it was definitely not an easy task to break through this Great Array Formation and destroy the array eye. Whether it was Long Xiaozhou or Bai Feng, they were defeated by Gu Fei. Could Han Tao have 3 heads and 6 arms to stop this guy? At this time, Bai Feng had already arrived nearby and hid to watch the show. Eldest senior brother Han Tao was an array formation grandmaster. Han Tao saw through the actual situation of this great array at a glance. However, even if he saw through the actual situation of this great array, it was useless because he couldn't see where the flaws of this great array were. Every array had flaws. Han Tao could see the actual situation of the array set up by Gu Fei, but it didn't mean that he could break the array. You have some ability. My array is right here. Please begin your performance. Gu Fei stood on top of the city wall with his hands behind his back, looking down at the guy in front of the city gate. Humph! Han Tao sneered. In the next moment, An array plate flew out from his body and floated in front of him. Countless runes lit up on the array disk, and a powerful energy fluctuation erupted from the array disk in front of Han Tao. Go! Han Tao shouted, and a powerful force burst out from the formation plate. It transformed into a battle spear and pierced towards the formation. However, the battle spear formed by the power pierced the light barrier. In the next moment, the battle spear shattered in the void. Han Tao couldn't help but frown when he saw this. Even by foam couldn't break this formation. It really does have some ability. You're trying to break the array with just this bit of skill? What a joke. Xiaoya, who was standing beside Gu Fei, sneered. What did you say? If you have the guts, come down and fight me one-on-one. Han Tao was furious. Attack first if you have the ability. Xiaoya said disapprovingly. Han Tao was infuriated by Xiaoya. He channeled the power of the array disk with all his might. Rays of divine light rushed towards him from all directions and merged into the array disk floating in front of him. Buzz! The array disk vibrated and countless runes rushed out from it. They transformed into a huge blade that fell from the sky and slashed towards West Gorge City, using the power of the formation to form a saber to kill his opponent. This was indeed a unique method. Even Gu Fei's eyes lit up upon seeing this. Formations could be used in this way. Han Tao's blade had drawn the power of heaven and earth. The power of this blade was extremely powerful. Even an Emperor Realm expert would be moved by this blade. However, Gu Fei still had no intention of making a move. When the shocking saber landed on the divine light barrier of West Gorge City, it was directly sent flying. Han Tao was also sent flying by the recoil. How is this possible? Han Tao knew that Bai Feng and Long Xiaozhou's defeat was not unjust. Just you wait. Han Tao put away the array disc and turned to leave. Long Xiaozhou, Bai Feng, and the others were inexplicably shocked to see Han Tao leave. Even a formation grandmaster couldn't do anything to Gu Fei's formation? What should they do? On top of the city wall, Long Xiaozhou and the Black Dragon King's faces were extremely solemn. Gu Fei had actually blocked the West Sea Dragon Clan's army. This was something that everyone could not believe. While Gu Fei was blocking the West Sea Dragon Clan's army, the sorcerer race began to take action. They began to attack the South Barbarian capital. In this way, there would be countless people fleeing from the South Barbarian capital. The sorcerer race's army finally began to attack the South Barbarian capital. For a moment, the sounds of battle shook the sky. However, the South Barbarian capital was protected by a great formation. The sorcerer race's army was only attacking tentatively. Soon, the sorcerer race's army stopped attacking. What are the sorcerer race playing? Manu, the second son of the South Barbarian capital, couldn't help but feel puzzled when he saw the sorcerer race's army retreating. Countless forces turned their attention to the South Barbarian capital. At this time, more and more forces sided with the sorcerer race. In the west of South Barbarian, in front of the city gate of West Gorge City, a figure appeared in the sky above West Gorge City as soon as Han Tao left. Gu Fei, come out and die. That person roared furiously, and an extremely powerful sound wave spread out. The entire great defensive formation shook, and a layer of divine light appeared in the void, enveloping the entire city. Who the hell are you? Gu Fei appeared on top of the city wall again. He is the barbarian sovereign. The sorcerer tribe's heaven shaman priest, Wu Lingxue, said with a trembling voice. What? The others were shocked when they heard this. The barbarian sovereign had actually returned and came directly to these small cities in the west of South Barbarian. Barbarian sovereign? Qiu Qianjian, lunar divine, fist Han Chong, saber king Luo Lai, red-browed eagle king, and the others were scared half to death when they saw the figure in the sky. The pressure that erupted from the figure in the sky was too powerful. The surrounding void was shaking, and ripples spread out in all directions. He is the barbarian sovereign? Gu Fei sensed the emperor's might that descended from the sky and couldn't help but be moved. This guy was indeed very strong. Since you are unwilling to come out and die, then let countless people be buried with you. The barbarian sovereign roared and attacked. A huge palm descended from the sky and blasted towards West Gorge City below. Boom! With a loud bang, the huge palm fell on the divine light of West Gorge City. The divine light of West Gorge City was extremely powerful, but it still shook violently. One crack after another appeared on the light barrier, as if it could shatter at any time. This, Chapter 4993. He's coming, he's coming, he's coming. He's coming with endless fury. Barbarian Sovereign was finally back, near West Gorge City. All the big shots who witnessed Barbarian Sovereign's return were shocked to the extreme. Barbarian Sovereign was the true ruler of South Barbarian in the Void Realm. Boom! Like an ancient god of war, Barbarian Sovereign struck the great formation of West Gorge City with his palm. With a deafening bang, the city defense formation that enveloped the entire West Gorge City immediately shook violently, and countless cracks appeared on the city defense light shield. Barbarian Sovereign was surprised to see that his palm didn't break the great formation. Again, Barbarian Sovereign struck the West Gorge City with his fist again. Boom! Another loud sound rang out as the Barbarian Emperor's fist landed solidly on the light shield. More cracks appeared on the light shield, and even the array disc floating above the West Gorge City began to crack. On top of West Gorge City, Gu Fei's face turned solemn when he saw this. At this moment, he realized that Barbarian Sovereign was a tall, middle-aged man with white hair. Barbarian Sovereign! In the sky, Wu Ying's voice trembled. Heaven Battering King, North Garrison King, and Elephant King were all stunned. They regretted betraying Barbarian Sovereign. After the Sorcerer tribe received the news, they stopped attacking the South Barbarian capital. The other forces, who were watching, secretly rejoiced. If they had all betrayed Barbarian Sovereign, the moment he returned would be their doomsday. What should we do? Elephant King was terrified. At this moment, no one was optimistic about Gu Fei. West Gorge City's great formation was about to be broken by Barbarian Sovereign. Han Tao, the disciple of Ling Tian Palace, didn't even need to call for reinforcements. The West Sea Dragon tribe was dumbfounded when they saw Barbarian Sovereign's return. The Black Dragon King wanted to retreat. With Barbarian Sovereign's return, the West Sea Dragon tribe wouldn't attack South Barbarian. As long as Barbarian Sovereign was alive, South Barbarian would belong to him. No one could take it away, not even the West Sea Dragon tribe. The Eastern Wilderness Demon Clan's army, which was blocked by War God by Go at Eastguard City, retreated as soon as they knew that Barbarian Emperor had returned. Those marquises of Nanman who had surrendered to the Sorcerer tribe were even more regretful. Father is finally back. Gu Fei and the Sorcerer tribe, you're all finished. In the southern barbarian capital, the second son of the barbarian Emperor Manu was overjoyed when he received the news. He was so happy that he almost went crazy. He, who was originally in despair, never would he have thought that the situation would be reversed so dramatically. The heavens haven't forsaken me. Within the imperial palace of the southern Man royal capital, Manu roared towards the sky. However, the attention of the major forces in the entire Void Realm was attracted by the western city of Nanman, West Gorge City at this time. The barbarian sovereign personally attacked the West Gorge City. He wanted to avenge his two sons who had died at the hands of Gu Fei. Therefore, he directly appeared in the West Gorge City. Muffled sounds of collisions resounded continuously, and countless people in West Gorge City were scared out of their wits. On top of the city wall, Qiu Qianjian, Red-Browed Eagle King, and the others were even more terrified. They were all in despair. This was the barbarian sovereign, an invincible existence in Nanman. In the entire West Gorge City, And even in the entire region, there was only one person who was still calm, and that person was Gu Fei. The barbarian sovereign was very strong, and a punch from him could shake the heavens and the earth. However, Gu Fei wasn't someone to be trifled with. It was really hard to say who was stronger and who was weaker. Gu Fei is finished this time, Wu Ying murmured. He wasn't optimistic about Gu Fei. What should we do? On top of the city wall, the heaven shaman priest, Wu Lingxue, looked at the invincible figure in the sky and said in fear, "Different situations call for different actions." Gu Fei said indifferently, "You can still be so calm at this time?" Wu Lingxue looked at Gu Fei as if she was looking at a monster. Even when facing the barbarian sovereign, this guy could still be calm. How did he do it? Gu Fei, have never been weaker than anyone in my life. Gu Fei looked at the barbarian sovereign in the sky and said expressionlessly, "What?" Wu Lingxue couldn't help but be shocked when she heard this. Could it be that Gu Fei wanted to compete with the barbarian sovereign? "Master, you!" The red-browed Eagle King and the rest were also shocked. Boom! At this moment, the barbarian sovereign's fist smashed through the light barrier of the West Gorge city, and a fist smashed towards Gu Fei at the top of the city wall. Gu Fei stretched out his right hand and caught the incoming fist. He then waved his sleeves, and the little girl beside him, Wu Lingxue, disappeared. The red-browed Eagle King and the rest disappeared. When they reappeared, they were already dozens of miles away from the West Gorge city. Boom! With a loud bang, the city wall around Gu Fei suddenly exploded. The incomparably sturdy city wall was like a piece of paper, incomparably fragile. And Gu Fei was also smashed into the ground by this punch. The red-browed Eagle King's army had already gathered at the back gate of the West Gorge city when the barbarian sovereign appeared. When the barbarian sovereign broke through the protective formation of the West Gorge city, the red-browed Eagle King's army opened the back gate and escaped. Since the barbarian sovereign's target was Gu Fei, he naturally wouldn't care about the 50,000-strong army of the red-browed Eagle King. This guy can actually take a punch from me? In midair, the barbarian sovereign, who had smashed Gu Fei into the ground, couldn't help but frown when he saw Gu Fei rushing out from the ground. Since this guy was able to kill 2 of his sons, he must be very capable. However, the barbarian sovereign didn't expect that this guy named Gu Fei could actually take a punch from him. Gu Fei took on Barbarian Emperor's punch. This was the first time he fought against an Emperor Realm expert. An Emperor Realm expert was too strong. If it wasn't for his strong martial body, he would have been killed by Barbarian Emperor's punch. Kill! Gu Fei's battle intent was like a rainbow, and his murderous intent was shocking. He directly attacked the barbarian sovereign in an extremely strong manner. "Good boy, do you want to die early and reincarnate early?" The barbarian sovereign couldn't help but frown when he saw Gu Fei taking the initiative to attack him. He then punched out. Bam! The 2 fists instantly collided, and a circle of ripples that could be seen by the naked eye spread out in all directions. The barbarian sovereign was unmoved like a mountain, but Gu Fei was sent flying, and the sleeve on his arm exploded. Gu Fei was directly sent flying by the barbarian sovereign's punch, and directly crashed into a mountain peak. With a loud bang, half of the mountain peak was broken and fell from the sky. However, Gu Fei rushed over again. "Eat my punch too!" Without any hesitation, Gu Fei directly punched out with his breaking extremity fist. The punch broke extremity, and a fist force that surpassed the limit of the limit burst out from Gu Fei's fist. Even the void trembled under his punch. What? The barbarian sovereign couldn't help but be shocked. How could this guy be possible? He wasn't an Emperor Realm expert. So how could he have the tyrannical strength to compete with an Emperor Realm expert? Seeing that Gu Fei was still attacking him energetically, the barbarian sovereign was a little stunned. Chapter 4994. The barbarian emperor had finally returned. Those who wanted to overthrow the barbarian emperor's rule were dumbfounded. He was the strongest person in South China. His return had directly changed the situation of the entire South China. The South Barbarian Emperor was so awesome. The army of the Eastern Wilderness Demon Clan had retreated, and the crisis in the east of Nanman had been resolved. Bai Ge, the god of war, returned to the Nanman royal capital and directly surrounded the army of the sorcerer tribe. As such, the situation of the sorcerer tribe was not good. However, the sorcerer tribe was not to be trifled with. The sorcerer emperor had come out of seclusion. This was a continuation of the battle 3,000 years ago. There were two great emperors in southern China at the same time. This was a hidden danger. Whether it was the barbarian sovereign or the sorcerer tribe, everyone knew that only when one of the two sovereigns was killed would the entire southern barbarian be truly unified. So, there was bound to be a battle between the barbarian emperor and the shaman emperor. But now the barbarian sovereign had his eyes on Gu Fei. At this moment, in the sky above West Gorge City, two silhouettes were moving rapidly in the air. Muffled sounds kept ringing out like thunder, incomparably shocking. This is a battle between martial emperors. Everyone who was watching the battle nearby was shocked. A battle between two emperors hadn't happened in a long time. The monarchs of the 5 factions in the Void Realm would not fight for no reason. Between the 5 monarchs, they only fought on a small scale. There had never been a life-and-death battle. Finally, an emperor-level battle had broken out. Moreover, among the 2 people who were fighting, one was the true master of South Barbarian, the Barbarian Emperor, and the other was not an Emperor Realm expert, but had the combat strength of an Emperor Realm expert. This Gu Fei is simply a freak. Wu Ying, one of the 8 great shaman emperors of the sorcerer tribe, stared at the 2 figures fighting in the sky and was extremely shocked. At this time, Wu Ying realized that he had seriously underestimated Gu Fei. This guy had the ability to dominate South China. The West Sea Dragon Clan army was nothing in his eyes. Breaking the limit with one punch, Gu Fei immediately displayed the fist technique that he was proud of. Once he executed this fist technique, his combat strength would multiply, and such strength would be sufficient to contend against the Barbarian Emperor. Bam! Boom! Gu Fei and the Barbarian Emperor continued to clash head-on. Powerful fist energy spread out in all directions, forming a powerful energy storm high up in the sky. Fortunately, this was in the sky. If it was on the ground, many people would have died. Even so, the mighty fist force that descended from the sky caused the sand and stones on the ground to fly, and the sun and moon to lose their light. At this time, the red-browed Eagle King's army had already withdrawn from West Gorge City. The entire West Gorge City had become an empty city. Boom! Another thunderous sound erupted. In the next moment, a figure descended from the sky and directly smashed into West Gorge City. Gu Fei is finished. Wu Ying, who was watching the battle from afar, exclaimed. The person who fell from the sky and smashed into West Gorge City was Gu Fei. Rumble! The moment Gu Fei smashed into West Gorge City, the entire city shook. The ground was like a wave, spreading out in all directions with Gu Fei at the center. In the blink of an eye, the entire West Gorge City was turned into ruins. When the big shots in the surroundings saw this scene, they were all dumbfounded. This battle between martial emperors was simply earth-shattering. However, an even more shocking scene appeared. They saw a figure rushing out of the huge pit in the city and directly attacking the Barbarian Emperor in the sky. The Barbarian Emperor was also dumbfounded. This guy was simply an unkillable cockroach. The strength of Gu Fei's martial body was far beyond the Barbarian Emperor's expectations, no matter how the Barbarian Emperor attacked, even if the Barbarian Emperor directly punched his body and broke his bones. However, in the blink of an eye, Gu Fei's injured body would completely recover, as if he had never been injured. Extreme Breaking Fist. Gu Fei once again used his trump card. The fist force of the Extreme Breaking Fist was extremely violent and overbearing. Even the Barbarian Emperor had to use all his strength to resist it. Barbarian Emperor Fist. The Barbarian Emperor used the fist technique named after him. Boom! The two fists once again collided. An extremely powerful wave of energy spread out with the two of them as the center. Two figures were sent flying. What? They are evenly matched. This is really heaven-defying. The big shots who were watching the battle exclaimed. If they did not see it with their own eyes, who would believe that a guy who was not even an emperor could actually fight with a real invincible martial emperor? Even if they said it out, no one would believe it. However, the truth was the truth. It was also a fact that no one believed it. Again, at this time, the battle blood in Gu Fei's body was boiling. An extremely powerful wave of energy erupted from his body, causing the surrounding void to tremble. Kill! The barbarian emperor roared and attacked. This time he no longer held back. When he punched out with both fists, the void shook. The two of them attacked with all their strength. Their fists collided with each other. Layers upon layers of fist shadows could be seen, muffled sounds could be heard, and the void trembled. A destructive aura appeared between the heaven and earth. The more Gu Fei fought, the stronger he became. This was because he could absorb the surrounding spiritual qi to replenish his consumed energy. As for the barbarian emperor, he could also absorb spiritual qi from the surrounding heaven and earth. However, compared to Gu Fei, the amount of spiritual qi he could absorb was very limited. It could not replenish his consumed energy at all. The intense battle between the two powerhouses caused the surrounding spectators to be extremely shocked. The combat strength that Gu Fei displayed directly shocked everyone. Bang! Bang! Two muffled sounds could be heard. Gu Fei's fist landed on the barbarian emperor's left shoulder. At the same time, the barbarian emperor's fist landed on Gu Fei's left shoulder. Both Gu Fei and the barbarian emperor were sent flying by the opponent's fist energy. How is this possible? The barbarian emperor was going crazy. This guy was not an emperor at all, but he could fight with him endlessly. What was going on? Since ancient times, there had never been such an unbelievable thing. At this time, a mysterious figure appeared above the clouds in the distant sky. It was a masked woman in white. The masked woman in white looked at the battle between Gu Fei and the barbarian emperor. She was also shocked. 3 emperors appeared in the south at once. This was absolutely unprecedented in the history of the South, because in the 5 regions it was already incredible for 2 emperors to appear at the same time, let alone 3 emperors appearing at the same time. 3 great emperors. Once the war started, wouldn't the entire southern wilderness be torn apart? As the masked woman in white made her move, several mysterious and powerful figures appeared nearby. These people were the real, peerless experts. What's going on? Sensing the aura of an invincible emperor in the void, all the existences at the peak of the divine king realm were shocked. Chapter 4995. In the void realm, one of the 5 regions in the west of the southern barbarians, 2 figures were moving rapidly and fighting continuously. At this time, the Western Gorge City had already become a thing of the past because the entire city had been destroyed by the battle between Gu Fei and the barbarian emperor. The battle between emperors was incomparably terrifying. Destroying a city was simply a trivial matter. An entire region would be affected. Little guy, who are you? The more the barbarian emperor fought, the more shocked he became. This guy's potential seemed to be endless. No matter how powerful his attack was, this guy could withstand it. The person who will kill you, Gu Fei said with a solemn expression. Boom! In the next moment, the 2 experts punched each other again, and the 2 figures were sent flying thousands of feet away. Then, the 2 experts rushed together again. The violent fist energy turned into a terrifying energy storm that swept in all directions. The storm that fell from the sky rolled up a monstrous cloud of dust. Even the experts who were watching the battle from afar had to retreat further away. Master is too awesome. The red-browed Eagle King and the others had already retreated far away. When they saw that their master could actually fight with the barbarian emperor, who was known to be invincible in the southern barbarians, they were all stunned. That was the barbarian emperor, one of the 5 emperors of the Void Realm. The 5 emperors of the Void Realm were actually also known as the 5 absolutes of the Void Realm. They were the top 5 experts. On the other hand, Gu Fei wasn't even an Emperor Realm expert. When the red-browed Eagle King and the others saw the Barbarian Emperor return, they were already in despair and thought that they were dead meat. Who would have thought that Gu Fei would give them a big surprise? Gu Fei used the extreme breaking fist and the heaven-treading step to continuously attack the Barbarian Emperor. He was not at a disadvantage at all. The Barbarian Emperor never thought that this little guy who was not even in the Emperor realm would be so difficult to deal with. His combat strength was also extremely strong. He was simply a freak. One sword to cut the sky. The Barbarian Emperor used his right hand as a sword and slashed at Gu Fei. An extremely sharp sword light rushed out of his hand and instantly slashed at Gu Fei. One blade to break the limit. Gu Fei flipped his right hand, and a long saber immediately appeared in his hand. Without a second thought, he swung his saber at his opponent. Royal Slayer's saber? When the Barbarian Emperor saw the saber in Gu Fei's hand, he immediately flew into a rage. At this time, Gu Fei had already destroyed the sword Qi unleashed by Barbarian Emperor with one slash, and directly slashed at Barbarian Emperor. The extremely sharp sword Qi seemed to be able to cut the void. The saber in Gu Fei's hand was the Emperor Slayer's saber. If he were to be hit by it, even if he didn't die, he would be severely injured. 3,000 years ago, the Barbarian Emperor had defeated the Shaman Emperor with the Monarch Beheader saber. When the white-clothed woman who was watching the battle from above the clouds saw the saber in Gu Fei's hand, her expression changed drastically. Swoosh! Just as the saber was about to hit the Barbarian Emperor disappeared in the void without a trace. Since the person had disappeared, Gu Fei's saber naturally slashed in the air. What? Gu Fei hurriedly retracted his saber. But at the same time, the Barbarian Emperor's figure appeared behind him without warning, and a fierce punch landed on his back. Bam! With a muffled sound, Gu Fei felt as if he had been hit by an ancient divine mountain, and his entire body fell forward involuntarily. Gu Fei is still not at the Emperor realm. Someone sighed. If Gu Fei also had the cultivation of the Emperor realm, he would have probably defeated the Barbarian Emperor long ago. Gu Fei's martial physique was extremely strong. Although he was punched by the Barbarian Emperor, he didn't suffer any injuries. One must know that his martial physique was the limitless martial physique. As for the powerful fist force that the Barbarian Emperor blasted on Gu Fei's body, it was devoured by Gu Fei. The more Gu Fei fought, the stronger he became. On the other hand, the Barbarian Emperor wasn't doing well because the primordial qi he had consumed was difficult to recover. The more he fought, the weaker he became. Under such circumstances, even the Barbarian Emperor couldn't help but become nervous. Gu Fei brandished the sovereign beheading saber in his hand. Every slash was aimed at the Barbarian Emperor's head. A mountain cannot accommodate 2 tigers. It was either you die or I die. The cultivation world was cruel. Clang! The sound of metal clashing rang out. A halberd appeared in the Barbarian Emperor's hand. The halberd in his hand fiercely collided with Gu Fei's sovereign beheading saber. Then, half of the halberd's sharp blade flew up and fell to the ground. You! The Barbarian Emperor was shocked and angry. Without half of the halberd's blade, the halberd could still be used. However, what made the Barbarian Emperor dumbfounded was that the halberd he brandished clashed with the sovereign beheading saber in Gu Fei's hand a few times. Then his halberd broke into several pieces and fell from the sky. Swoosh! The saber flashed and blood appeared. The Barbarian Emperor's right arm was almost chopped off by Gu Fei's saber. The Barbarian Emperor didn't even look back and directly turned to flee. If he didn't flee, he would be waiting to be killed by Gu Fei. Gu Fei naturally didn't want to let the Barbarian Emperor go, so he immediately chased after him. However, the speed of the Barbarian Emperor's escape was extremely fast. Even when Gu Fei displayed the heaven-treading steps, he almost couldn't catch up to him. The Barbarian Emperor fled directly towards the south barbarian capital. Gu Fei chased after him closely. When the barbarian emperor fled to the sky above the south barbarian capital, it scared Wu Fang because he was the one who led the sorcerer tribe army to surround the south barbarian capital. However, the barbarian emperor didn't care about Wu Fang at all. He directly rushed into the south barbarian capital and went straight into the palace. Gu Fei chased after him. In the next moment, the experts in the south barbarian capital rushed up to the sky and attacked Gu Fei. "All of you get lost!" Gu Fei roared and slashed forward with all his might. The resplendent saber light directly soared thousands of feet. Those experts who attacked Gu Fei were directly killed. Their corpses fell from the sky, and it was as if there was a rain of blood in the sky. Gu Fei. When Wu Fang saw this scene, he was immediately stunned. Could it be that the barbarian emperor was actually not a match for Gu Fei? Gu Fei charged straight into the southern Man royal capital. Wherever he passed, there was actually no one who could block his blade. This caused Wu Fang and the others to be dumbfounded. Roar! Right at this moment, a furious roar resounded from within the imperial palace. After that, a golden figure charged out from within the imperial palace and attacked Gu Fei. What's going on? When Gu Fei saw this, he was inexplicably shocked. In the next moment, the barbarian emperor had already arrived. This guy was wearing golden armor and holding a golden spear in his hand. He rushed towards Gu Fei with a murderous aura. The golden armor and golden spear on the barbarian emperor's body were definitely not ordinary Dao weapons. Gu Fei could feel that the barbarian emperor's combat strength had increased a lot. Clang! The sovereign slayer saber in Gu Fei's hand collided with the golden spear. This time the golden spear was not damaged. Chapter 4996. There was no doubt that the barbarian emperor was peerless. He was one of the 5 emperors, the invincible emperor of Southern Man. 3,000 years ago, the barbarian emperor even defeated the shaman emperor at that time. But now, the barbarian emperor met the strongest opponent in his life. Moreover, this opponent was not an emperor realm expert. This made the barbarian emperor depressed. The barbarian emperor never thought that he would be forced to use his ultimate armor by a little guy who was not even an emperor. The golden armor and golden spear were his last trump card. The golden armor and golden spear were obtained by the barbarian emperor from an ancient site in Southern Man. He also obtained a cultivation method from that site. Since then, the barbarian emperor rose all the way and finally succeeded in breaking through to the emperor realm, becoming the 2nd emperor of Southern Man. Moreover, he challenged the invincible shaman emperor of the sorcerer tribe. It had to be said that the barbarian emperor was really powerful. He actually defeated the shaman emperor and became the new master of Southern Man. However, now the tables had turned. 3,000 years had passed, and finally, there was someone who could challenge the barbarian emperor. Clang! The sound of metal colliding resounded from the sky above the Southern Man Imperial City and spread throughout the entire Southern Man Imperial City. Countless experts in the city looked up at the 2 figures who were fighting in the sky. The importance of this battle was needless to say. It directly decided who the master of Southern Man would be. Therefore, at this time, the 19 feudal lords of Southern Man were watching. The 8 shaman kings of the sorcerer tribe were also watching. All the forces of Southern Man, big and small, were watching. Even the emperors of the other 4 regions were watching. What army, what forces, at this time it didn't matter. At this time, Gu Fei and the barbarian emperor decided the fate of the entire Southern Man. This Gu Fei, on a mountain peak more than 10 miles away from the Southern Man Imperial City, the heaven shaman priest Wu Lingxue was standing on a big rock and watching the battle in the sky. Who would have thought that Gu Fei was so powerful? He was not an emperor, but he could compete with an emperor. Wu Ying, Wu Fang, and the other 8 shaman kings had mixed feelings. One must know that once Gu Fei defeated the barbarian emperor, then Gu Fei would be the master of Southern Man. By then, wouldn't the witch tribe have nothing to do with it? This wouldn't do. The southern wilderness was the world of the shaman tribe. 3,000 years ago, the the barbarian emperor defeated the shaman emperor. This was definitely a nightmare for the shaman tribe. The former lord of Nanman was driven out just like that. They finally waited for the shaman emperor to come out of seclusion. They originally thought that the shaman tribe could once again become the master of South China. But now there was a Gu Fei. The sorcerer tribe had formed an alliance with Gu Fei. If the sorcerer tribe attacked Gu Fei, it would be treachery. This fellow named Gu Fei is actually able to fight against the barbarian emperor. This is too unbelievable. The Black Dragon King, Long Xiaozhou, and the others also arrived near the southern man's capital. At this time, no one stopped them. Of course, they only came with a few people. The West Sea Dragon clan's army had already retreated to the West Seas territory. The commotion caused by the battle of emperor-level experts was too big. The fluctuations of emperor-level experts were vast and mighty, and the entire world's yuan qi was boiling. Although Gu Fei wasn't an emperor, his battle prowess was on par with an emperor. Extreme Breaking Fist. Gu Fei constantly struck out with Extreme Breaking Fist, constantly breaking through his limits. He fought endlessly with the barbarian emperor, who was wearing golden battle armor and holding a golden battle spear. At the same time, the sovereign beheader saber in his hand was constantly clashing with the barbarian emperor's golden battle spear. With a left fist and a right blade, Gu Fei beat the barbarian emperor until he started to doubt his life. The barbarian emperor was wearing golden armor and holding a battle spear. His battle prowess was raised to the limit, but he was still constantly beaten back by Gu Fei. Cracks appeared on his hands that were holding the golden battle spear, and they were full of blood. How can this guy be so strong? The barbarian emperor really couldn't believe it. This Gu Fei wasn't an emperor-level expert at all. But his strength was so strong that even if he attacked with all his strength, he could only barely withstand it. If you only have this little ability, then the Lord of Nanman will have to change. Gu Fei attacked in an incomparably domineering manner. The blade light that rushed out from the Sovereign Slayer's saber cut through the void of heaven and earth, as if it could cut through everything. However, the power that erupted from the golden battle spear in the barbarian emperor's hand was also extremely strong. It was unknown what grade of divine weapon this was, but it could actually contend with the Sovereign Slayer saber. And the rarest thing was that the golden battle spear in the barbarian emperor's hand and the golden battle armor on his body were a set. This was a complete set of equipment. What did you say? The barbarian emperor was shocked and angry. This guy actually dared to underestimate him. Kill, kill, kill! The barbarian emperor's eyes were incomparably crazy. He desperately urged the power in his body and danced the golden battle spear towards Gu Fei. The void was filled with the phantom of the golden battle spear. At this time, Gu Fei had already condensed a trace of boundless force. Pooh! Blood suddenly appeared. The golden battle spear in the barbarian emperor's hand directly pierced through Gu Fei's chest and then came out from his back. Haha, you're still not dead? The barbarian emperor was surprised and overjoyed. Gu Fei's left hand grabbed the golden battle spear, but his right hand chopped off the barbarian emperor's left arm from the shoulder. Blood splattered. How is this possible? The barbarian emperor was in disbelief. This guy's heart was pierced by his golden battle spear. How could he still be alive? The golden battle spear was a great killing weapon. Not to mention being pierced, an ordinary god king would be killed by the baleful aura of the battle spear, even if they were to touch the golden battle spear. However, this Gu Fei was directly pierced by the golden battle spear, and he could actually counterattack? This was something that had never happened before. Bam! Gu Fei flew up and kicked the barbarian emperor's chest fiercely, sending the barbarian emperor flying. Seeing this scene, everyone was dumbfounded. Is this the rhythm of a lose-lose situation? Someone exclaimed. At this time, Gu Fei pulled out the golden battle spear from his chest. The wounds on his body were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. This guy is simply a monster. The 19 vassal kings and 8 shaman kings were incomparably shocked when they saw this scene. This Gu Fei's body's recovery ability was simply too shocking. That was the barbarian emperor's golden battle spear, a legendary supreme divine weapon that even god kings would die if they touched it. They would die if they touched it, but this Gu Fei actually didn't die after being pierced by the golden battle spear. He even had the ability to heavily injure the barbarian emperor. If they didn't see this scene with their own eyes, who would believe that this Gu Fei was actually this powerful? Everyone saw that the golden light emitted from the golden battle spear that was stained with Gu Fei's blood had actually dimmed. His blood could actually suppress the power of the golden battle spear. Who exactly is he? Chapter 4997. No one would have thought that Gu Fei would risk having his chest pierced by Barbarian Emperor's golden spear to chop off Barbarian Emperor's left arm and kick Barbarian Emperor away. What shocked everyone was that although Gu Fei was injured by the golden divine spear, his wound was healing at a visible speed. The golden divine spear was the most precious treasure of the barbarian sovereign. If he was injured by the golden divine spear, not to mention that Gu Fei was an emperor, even a true emperor would die. However, no one could have imagined that even though Gu Fei's cultivation base was suppressed by the power of the heaven and earth laws in the void realm, his martial body was actually the limitless martial body. The golden divine spear was powerful, but so was Gu Fei's blood. However, things were different now that this godly item was in Gu Fei's hands. Gu Fei held the golden spear in his right hand. The blood on the spear moved and flowed towards Gu Fei's right hand. Then it entered his hand. Buzz! A buzzing sound rang out from the golden spear, and countless golden runes appeared on the surface of the spear, along with the shadow of a golden dragon. This was a golden dragon spear, and the power contained within it was extremely powerful. A half-peerless Tao artifact. No wonder it is so powerful. Gu Fei muttered to himself. Even though the Barbarian Emperor and the Shaman Emperor were both emperors, the Barbarian Emperor's luck was much better than the Shaman Emperor's, and he'd actually obtained a set of Tao artifacts like this. No wonder the Barbarian Sovereign could defeat the Shaman Sovereign and become the Lord of Southern Barbarian. However, even though the Barbarian Emperor had defeated the Shaman Emperor, it wasn't an easy task to kill the Shaman Emperor. At this moment, everyone was stunned by this scene, especially the supporters of the Barbarian Emperor. All of them were terrified to the extreme. One must know that if the Barbarian Emperor was defeated, they would be buried along with him. Father! In the southern Man capital, the second son of Man Emperor Manu was scared stiff when he saw the scene in the sky. The Barbarian Emperor is going to be unlucky. The 8 great witch kings of the witch tribe couldn't sit still anymore. The witch tribe and Gu Fei were allies. If Gu Fei defeated the barbarian sovereign, then half of the southern barbarian world would belong to the witch tribe. After all, the alliance they made was to divide the world equally. The Black Dragon King and Long Xiaozhou were purely here to watch the show. The West Sea Dragon clan would not intervene in the affairs of the South Barbarians at this time. It was the same for the Eastern Barren Territories Demon clan. If they interfered at this time, it would be a chaotic battle between Emperor-level cultivators. It would be a disaster for the entire Void Realm. The overlords of the West Sea Dragon race and the Eastern Wilderness Demon race would never do something so stupid. At this time, the 19 feudal vassal kings of Southern Man were faced with the problem of choosing a side. Some of the feudal vassals who originally supported the barbarian emperor began to waver. This was especially true for the fierce Tiger King who had been abused by Gu Fei. He had experienced Gu Fei's prowess before. If Gu Fei defeated Barbarian Emperor, fierce Tiger King would be out of luck. Roar! At this time, the Barbarian Emperor had been kicked by Gu Fei 100 miles away, directly smashing a mountain peak, rushed out of the rubble and roared at the sky. His broken arm was growing back at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a few breaths, the Barbarian Emperor's left arm had grown back and it was intact. F***CK, this is possible. When the red-browed Eagle King and the others saw this scene, the originally excited crowd was instantly doused with a basin of cold water. They were all stunned. Little guy, I'm going to tear you into pieces. The barbarian emperor stared at Gu Fei, his eyes red. You need to have the ability to do so. Gu Fei said disapprovingly. Damn it! The barbarian emperor roared. In the next moment, the golden armor on his body suddenly bloomed with a bright golden light. It was as if there was a golden divine flame burning on his body. An unprecedentedly powerful wave of power erupted from the barbarian emperor's body. The golden armor on his body seemed to have merged with him. Gu Fei was a little surprised. This guy could actually activate the true power of the golden armor on his body. This was something that he had never expected. No wonder this guy was so strong. In the Void Realm, the power of a half-step infinity was absolutely invincible. No wonder this guy was so arrogant and wanted to tear Gu Fei into pieces. However, it was a pity that Gu Fei's blood had awakened the power of the Golden Spear. The power of the Golden Spear was also the power of a half-step infinity. There was also the Sovereign Slayer Blade in Gu Fei's hand. The Sovereign Slayer Blade was also a half-step infinity Dao artifact. Gu Fei held the blade in his right hand and the spear in his left. His domineering aura was overflowing. Everyone was shocked by his aura, and their souls were shaken. The barbarian emperor, who was 100 miles away, was filled with murderous intent. He was like a terrifying ancient beast that could tear everything in front of him into pieces at any time. The barbarian emperor was also anxious. The battle prowess that Gu Fei displayed was too strong. Although Gu Fei was not an emperor, he was stronger than an emperor. This is a very exciting show. In the distant sky, a figure appeared behind the Black Dragon King and Long Xiaozhou. Father! Father? Long Xiaozhou turned around to look and almost turned to run in fright. She had caused a lot of trouble. Where can you run to? The old man reached out and directly grabbed Long Xiaozhou's collar and lifted her up. Long Xiaozhou's hands and feet danced wildly. Father! What are you doing? Quickly, let me go. Long Xiaozhou was anxious. Greetings, Emperor. When the Black Dragon King saw the old man, he immediately knelt in the void in fright, shivering. He and Prime Minister Turtle tricked Long Xiaozhou to come to the south. At the thought of this matter, the Black Dragon King felt a headache. All right, you'd better behave yourself. The old man let go of Long Xiaozhou. You get up too, the old man said. This old man looked like an ordinary old man. Who would have thought that he was the Dragon Emperor of the West Sea Dragon Clan? There was only one Dragon Emperor in the West Sea Dragon Clan. The West Sea Dragon Lord actually came to the south. If this was known, it would definitely cause a stir in the entire south. One must know that the West Sea Dragon Clan's old Dragon Emperor had dominated the world for tens of thousands of years. He was the oldest emperor in the entire Void Realm. Even Barbarian Emperor had to greet the West Sea Emperor with the etiquette of a junior when he saw the West Sea Emperor. Father, why are you here too? Long Xiaozhou asked curiously. Because her father had not left the West Sea for 1,000 years. This time he actually personally came to the south. What attracted father to come to the south? How can I miss such a big show? The old man stroked his beard and smiled. Long Xiaozhou was speechless. Father actually came all the way to watch the show? At this time, Barbarian Emperor seemed to have gone crazy, rushing towards Gu Fei from 100 miles away. The violent power caused the sky and the earth to change color. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Gu Fei sneered and directly held the battle spear and monarch behead saber in his hands. Chapter 4998. He risked his life, risked his life, he risked his life. Everyone was extremely excited. Barbarian Emperor was actually forced to fight with his life by Gu Fei. This was something that no one could have imagined. It was unbelievable. One should know that Gu Fei wasn't an Emperor Realm expert. An Emperor Realm expert was actually forced to fight with his life by a guy who wasn't even an Emperor Realm expert. This had never happened before in the history of the Void Realm. Everyone stared nervously at Barbarian Emperor, who was rushing towards Gu Fei. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Gu Fei held the emperor beheading saber in one hand and the golden battle spear in the other as he charged towards barbarian emperor. Clang! The sound of metal colliding resounded. Gu Fei was sent flying several dozen li away. He crashed through a mountain and fell into the mountain ridge. A saber was stabbed into barbarian emperor's chest. This saber was the emperor beheading saber. Gu Fei took the barbarian emperor's punch head-on, but the emperor beheading saber in his hand was stabbed into barbarian emperor's chest at the last moment. The emperor beheading saber was a half-step peerless Dao artifact that could kill emperor realm experts. Barbarian emperor didn't expect that he would die under the emperor beheading saber. Even emperor realm experts might die if they were injured by the emperor beheading saber. Damn it, barbarian emperor wasn't willing to die like this. However, what could he do? The power of the emperor beheading saber started to take away his life force. He fell from the sky, and it seemed like he wouldn't be able to survive. The emperor beheading saber that was stabbed into barbarian emperor's body was rapidly devouring his life force. Father! Manu rushed towards barbarian emperor in despair. He couldn't believe that his invincible father was defeated by a guy who wasn't even an emperor realm expert. The emperor beheading saber was said to be able to kill emperor realm experts. Barbarian emperor naturally wouldn't be able to survive after being injured by the emperor beheading saber. Go quickly! Barbarian emperor fell into the mountain ridge outside the South barbarian capital. He used the last of his strength to send Manu away. He wanted to preserve his bloodline. The teleportation technique used by an emperor realm cultivator was naturally extraordinary. No one knew where Manu was sent to. Even the West Sea Old Dragon Emperor, who was watching the battle from the side, couldn't see any flaws. At this time, the red-browed Eagle King and the others were also rushing towards the place where Gu Fei had fallen. Will Gu Fei still be alive this time? Among the 8 Magus Emperors, some Magus Kings wished that Gu Fei could die so that they could divide his territory and take over his forces. The Witch tribe wanted to become the master of South China again, so they naturally didn't want to see Gu Fei defeat the barbarian emperor. Roar! At this moment, an angry roar suddenly came from the mountain ridge in the distance. In the next moment, an unprecedentedly powerful wave of Yuan Qi spread out. Everyone was shocked to the extreme. They saw a figure rushing out from the mountain ridge. This person was none other than Gu Fei, who had been sent flying by barbarian emperor's punch. Everyone was dumbfounded at the sight of this. Master! Red-browed Eagle King and the others were in disbelief when they saw that Gu Fei could still rush out. At this time, Gu Fei directly appeared beside the barbarian emperor and looked at him coldly. He knew that the barbarian emperor wouldn't be able to survive because his qi and blood were rapidly flowing out. Greetings, new emperor. Someone directly knelt down in front of Gu Fei. The South China finally had a new master. The barbarian emperor finally died. His qi and blood were completely devoured by the sovereign beheading saber, and he became a dry corpse. The Lord of South China actually ended up like this. It was really sad. Gu Fei stretched out his right hand, and the sovereign beheading saber that was inserted into the barbarian emperor's body flew up and was grabbed by him. Even the golden armor on the barbarian emperor couldn't block the sovereign beheading saber. Countless people were envious of the sovereign beheading saber, but no one dared to use it because whoever touched it would be courting death. After the sovereign beheading saber devoured the barbarian emperor's qi and blood, the power in the saber didn't seem to become much stronger. Instead, the saber quietened down. Greetings, new emperor. More and more people knelt down in front of Gu Fei. The people of the sorcerer tribe felt a little complicated at this time. None of the 8 great shaman kings acknowledged the position of Gu Fei as the new emperor of South China because in their hearts, the emperor of South China was the shaman emperor of the sorcerer tribe. However, the shaman emperor didn't appear. No one knew why the shaman emperor didn't make a move, and no one knew the whereabouts of the shaman emperor. In other words, even the people of the sorcerer tribe didn't know where the shaman emperor was. The people of the sorcerer tribe were extremely anxious. If the shaman emperor appeared at this time, the sorcerer tribe could share South China with Gu Fei equally. However, in the end, the shaman emperor still didn't appear. With the fall of the barbarian emperor, the 19 vassal kings of South China had no other choice but to submit to the new emperor. If they didn't submit, they would die. Gu Fei would never be soft-hearted. However, the strange thing was that among the 19 vassal kings of South China, none of them dared to resist Gu Fei. The fierce Tiger King, who was loyal to the barbarian emperor, was the first among the 19 vassal kings to declare allegiance to Gu Fei. This made people's jaws drop. The new emperor ascended to the throne, and the great crisis of South China that was about to descend into chaos was resolved just like that. The 19 vassal kings returned to their own fiefdoms. When Xiaoya, Red-Browed Eagle King, Qiu Qianjian Hanchong, Saber King Luo Lai, Shan Kuei, and the others received the news, they felt as if they were dreaming. It was hard for them to imagine that their master had become the new emperor of South China. However, Gu Fei still had a problem now, and that was the sorcerer tribe. Because the shaman emperor had come out of seclusion, the sorcerer tribe naturally wouldn't easily submit to Gu Fei. However, Gu Fei didn't care. He was just a passerby in this world. His purpose of becoming the new emperor of South China was to go to the most mysterious place in this world. In the South China royal capital, the magnificent imperial palace had changed its master. The imperial palace was already in a mess, but it quickly returned to peace because the sorcerer tribe had taken over the entire South China royal capital, which naturally included the imperial palace. The sorcerer tribe had already assembled an army in the South China royal capital, and they took over the South China royal capital. Although Gu Fei defeated the barbarian emperor, how could he take over the entire South China royal capital by himself? Even if he was a peerless powerhouse, he couldn't take over a city by himself. When the war between the emperors came to an end, Red-Browed Eagle King, Xiaoya and the others were leading Gu Fei's army directly to the South China royal capital. At this time, Gu Fei was standing at the highest point of the South China royal capital, at the top of the South China royal palace, overlooking the entire South China royal capital. The world thinks that I want to become the Lord of South China, but they don't know that my ambition is not here. Gu Fei sighed. Although the scene in front of him was very tempting, being high above and having supreme power, and countless people were obsessed with power, he was different. To Gu Fei, all of these were just fleeting clouds. Oh, then what is your ambition? Chapter 4999. Gu Fei stood at the top of the imperial city and looked down at the whole city. In this world, all living beings were like ants. He saw the sorcerer tribe people seizing the properties that belonged to the barbarian emperor. He saw countless people rushing to the city gate and dragging their families out of the city. He even saw some people looting in the city. Some places were on fire. In the eyes of Gu Fei, all these were just fleeting clouds. He was not moved at all. My ambition is not here. Gu Fei sighed. Then what is your ambition? A voice suddenly sounded behind Gu Fei. Gu Fei turned around and saw a masked woman in white standing about 20 feet away from him without him noticing. Who are you? Gu Fei was a little surprised. This woman actually came behind him, but he did not notice it. The other party's cultivation level must be higher than his. Of course, for Gu Fei, cultivation level did not mean anything. He was not an emperor yet, but his combat strength was enough to shock the world. One should know that he killed the barbarian emperor and became the new emperor of South China. Haven't you always wanted to see me? The masked woman in white said. Her voice was soft and gave people a feeling of a spring breeze. You are the sorcerer emperor. Gu Fei was surprised. He never thought that the sorcerer emperor, who was famous in the world 3,000 years ago, was actually a woman. It was just that she was masked and he did not know whether she was ugly or beautiful. However, when one's cultivation level reached the sorcerer emperor level, it was just a matter of thought to become as beautiful as a fairy. Don't tell me you came to me to challenge me. Gu Fei looked at the masked woman in white and smiled. Not interested. The woman in white shook her head. Then why are you looking for me? Gu Fei asked curiously. Nothing, I just want to chat with you. The tone of the woman in white was still very soft and calm. What chat? Gu Fei couldn't help but be stunned when he heard it. So simple? Who would believe it? In any case, he didn't believe it. Not bad. The new emperor of Nanman. Nanman will respect you from now on. The witch emperor said. I don't care. Gu Fei shook his head. Although the southern barbarian sovereign was one of the 5 sovereigns, that was not what he wanted. He wanted to leave this void plane and return to eternal world. Here, he didn't have a single relative. Even if he became the emperor here or even the realm lord of this world, what fun was there in that? His family and friends were not in this world, so Gu Fei was all alone here. I'm really curious what you want. The shaman emperor was very curious. Such a powerful existence actually didn't want anything? How was this possible? I just want to go to the empty beginning land to take a look. Gu Fei's expression turned solemn. What? When the shaman emperor heard this, she, who had always been very calm, was finally moved. The land of virtual beginning, the palace of origin? The witch emperor looked at Gu Fei in shock. Her eyes were extremely bright. Why, you know this place. When Gu Fei heard this, he hurriedly asked. Of course, back then, if it wasn't for... The witch emperor's eyes dimmed. She seemed to have recalled some unhappy things. If you want to go to that place, you can look for me. Goodbye. After saying that, the witch emperor disappeared within the void, leaving no trace behind. Even Gu Fei could only see a silhouette disappearing before his eyes in an instant. So fast! Gu Fei couldn't help but be moved. The witch emperor's speed was the fastest person he had seen since he entered the void plane. Intuition told Gu Fei that this witch emperor was very strong. No, I want to go there to look for you. Gu Fei suddenly came back to his senses and couldn't help but smile bitterly. The void plane was so big, it was difficult to find a person even if he was as strong as he was. The war between emperors had come to an end. However, the whole southern barbarian was still in turmoil. The calmness on the surface couldn't hide the uneasiness in the dark. The sorcerer tribe began to purge the old subordinates of the barbarian emperor. Everyone knew that this day would come, but no one thought that it would come so quickly. The peace in southern barbarian, which had just been peaceful for a few days, was broken by a sudden war. The army of the sorcerer tribe had actually clashed with Gu Fei's army. The army, led by the red-browed Eagle King and Xiao Yu, was actually blocked by the army of the sorcerer tribe outside the city gate, not allowing them to enter the city. How could this be? The army under the command of the red-browed Eagle King immediately fought with the army of the sorcerer tribe. The army guarding the city was the army of Wu Ying, one of the 8 great shaman kings. Previously, he didn't think that Gu Fei would win. He made a bet with the Heaven Battering King that if he lost, he would have to eat dirt. This guy was a man of his word. He actually really ate dirt. Wu Ying became the first shaman king in the history of the sorcerer tribe to eat dirt. This was a great humiliation. Therefore, when he saw the army under Gu Fei, Wu Ying was very unhappy. His attitude was naturally not good. It would be strange if there was no conflict between the two sides. The other armies of the sorcerer tribe heard the news and rushed over to join the battle. Therefore, the matter became more and more serious. In the end, it became a huge war. How could the 200,000 troops under the command of the red-browed Eagle King be a match for the army of the sorcerer tribe? Soon they were defeated. They were chased by the army of the sorcerer tribe all the way to the mountains 100 miles away, leaving behind countless corpses. Even Xiao Yu was injured. Her left arm was slashed in the chaotic battle. When the war broke out, Gu Fei was not in the southern barbarian royal capital. Instead, he was in the West Sea. The old dragon emperor of the West Sea invited Gu Fei to the West Sea Dragon Palace as a guest. Gu Fei did not gain anything from the West Sea Dragon Palace. Instead, he gained a disciple. He had made a bet with Long Xiaozhou. Long Xiaozhou lost, so he wanted to be his disciple no matter what. This made him very helpless, and he could only accept this disciple. As for the people of the Ling Tian Palace, when they saw that Gu Fei had killed the barbaric emperor, they were so scared that they did not dare to show their faces. Even the barbaric emperor was killed by this ruthless person. Unless the palace master of the Ling Tian Palace came personally, who else could do anything to this ruthless person? At this time, on the Funyo Ridge, 100 miles away from the southern barbarian royal capital, there was a gloomy and gloomy atmosphere. Xiao Ye and the others had set up camp here, and at a glance they were all exhausted and blood-stained soldiers. These soldiers were the elites of the barbarian imperial city, Heavenly Eagle City, Black Fog City, and Thousand Beast City. However, compared to the army of the sorcerer tribe, the combat power of Xiaoya and the others was not just a little bit weaker. "Your Highness!" Suddenly, Shan Kuei rushed up from the mountain. "Your Highness, this is bad. The army of the sorcerer tribe has surrounded us. What should we do?" Shan Kuei directly knelt in front of Xiaoya, his voice trembling. "What are you panicking for?" Xiaoya shouted. She looked down the mountain and saw flags fluttering in the wind. Countless soldiers of the sorcerer tribe had surrounded the entire mountain. The expressions of the surrounding red-browed Eagle King, Lunar Divine Fist Han Chong, Saber King Luo Lai, and one-armed Sword King Qiu Qianjian changed drastically. The sorcerer tribe actually dares. Everyone was shocked and angry. This is too much. Chapter 5000. The army of the sorcerer tribe had caught up and surrounded the entire mountain. Was the sorcerer tribe trying to kill them all? "Your Majesty, do you really want to destroy the red-browed Eagle King and the rest?" At the foot of the mountain, in the main tent of a military camp, the Shaman King Wu Ying sat high up, with many warriors in armor sitting on both sides. Each of the 8 shaman kings of the sorcerer tribe had their own troops and forces. Wu Ying's force was not the strongest among the 8 shaman kings. It was only above average. The shaman king who was stronger than Wu Ying did not appear. "We'll see," Wu Ying said indifferently. But a tall warrior who looked like a black iron tower wanted to say something, but stopped. "No, but you just have to listen to my orders." Wu Ying waved his hand. "Yes, Your Majesty," the warriors said in unison. At this time, in the palace hall of the Nanman royal capital, the shaman kings were not as relaxed as Wu Ying. The throne in the middle of the palace hall was empty. None of the 7 shaman kings dared to sit on it because it belonged to one person. However, that person did not appear. What is Wu Ying doing? He actually fought with Gu Fei's men. Doesn't he know the consequences? In the hall, sitting on the first seat to the left of the throne, was a white-haired, majestic-looking old man who was almost roaring. This old man was the great shaman king, Wu Tianhe. Wu Tianhe was the most senior shaman king among the 8 shaman kings. The other shaman kings had always followed his lead. When they saw Wu Tianhe suddenly fly into a rage, they could not help but be shocked. Yes, Gu Fei even killed the barbarian emperor. Shaman King Wu Liang said worriedly, "The consequences are serious. The consequences are very serious." A fat man who was half lying on a chair sighed. "Fatty Wu, don't be alarmist. Don't you understand Wu Ying's intentions? He is testing Gu Fei," Shaman King Wu Fong said. "Testing? It's not something that just anyone can test." Wu Tianhe sneered. "Yes, we have formed an alliance with him." Fatty Wu nodded. "There's no harm in testing Gu Fei. Wu Ying knows what he's doing and won't go overboard." The Witch King Wu Qingshan said, "Gu Fei is incomparably domineering. The consequences of offending him are unpredictable." There were also shaman kings who held different opinions. "No matter what, the matter of Wu Ying's roar coming out will be handled by him. I won't interfere." The great Witch King Wu Changhe stood up angrily and walked out. When the other shaman kings in the hall saw this, they did not dare to say anything. On the surface, the sorcerer tribe looked very united, but in reality, the sorcerer tribe was not united internally. The 8 great shaman kings were not of one mind. Among the 7 mage kings, there were people who supported Master Wuing. Clearly, the great mage king, Wu Changhe, did not support Master Wuing. Those who supported the Wu tribe to win were nothing more than to test Gu Fei. If Gu Fei did not make a move, then the Wu tribe would have the opportunity to unify the entire southern barbarians and become the master of the southern barbarians. After all, the sorcerer emperor of the sorcerer tribe had also come out of seclusion. However, this was risky. The great witch king obviously did not want to take the risk because no one knew the consequences of testing Gu Fei. One had to know that Gu Fei had even killed the barbarian emperor. Would Gu Fei be afraid of the sorcerer tribe? What a joke! At this time, Xiaoye, the red-browed eagle king, and the others who were trapped on the Crouching Bull Ridge were extremely anxious. They did not know if the sorcerer tribe would really attack them. Gu Fei did not appear either. Moreover, the sorcerer emperor had come out of seclusion. If the sorcerer emperor stalled Gu Fei and the sorcerer tribe's army attacked, they would all be annihilated. Master, where did you go? On the Crouching Bull Ridge. Xiaoye looked at the sky and could not calm down for a long time. The sorcerer tribe had really gone too far. The barbarian emperor was killed by her master. Without her master, the sorcerer tribe would not even be able to break into the southern barbarian imperial city. The sorcerer tribe did not do anything at all. It could be said that all of this was fought for by Gu Fei. But now the sorcerer tribe had actually betrayed the alliance and wanted to monopolize everything that originally belonged to Gu Fei. This was like stabbing Gu Fei in the back. Xiaoye, the red-browed eagle king, and the others did not know where Gu Fei had gone. Gu Fei was invited away by the West Sea Old Dragon Emperor. That was a very sudden matter, and almost no one knew about it. At this time, Gu Fei had already left the West Sea and was rushing back to the southern barbarians. However, there was one more person by his side. This person was Long Xiaozhou. After Long Xiaozhou acknowledged Gu Fei as her master, she clung to Gu Fei and asked Gu Fei to teach her the Array Dao. How could Gu Fei have the time to teach her? He directly threw a book on the essentials of Array Dao for her to cultivate on her own. However, Long Xiaozhou, who obtained the essentials of Array Dao, pestered Gu Fei even more. Because these were all new things, some parts even conflicted with the Array Dao that she had learned, so she kept asking Gu Fei to explain it to her. Gu Fei was annoyed and slipped away. Who would have thought that this little girl was very clever? She knew that Gu Fei was going back to the southern barbarians and actually waited for Gu Fei on the path that Gu Fei had to pass through. Gu Fei was really speechless. A little girl who had been reborn and reincarnated was enough to annoy him. Now there was another Long Xiaozhou. He really had a headache. However, Long Xiaozhou's talent was not bad and was worth cultivating. Otherwise, Gu Fei would not have agreed to accept the little princess of the dragon clan from the West Sea as a disciple. Master, what does this text mean? Master, how can I condense the array pattern in the void? Master, Gu Fei was really going crazy. They walked and stopped all the way. After dawdling for a long time, they still had not left the territory of the West Sea. At this time, at the foot of the Funyo Ridge, 100 miles away from the southern barbarian royal capital, in the military camp of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Yin began to call out the generals, and the troops in the military camp began to gather. On the mountain ridge, Little Ye and the others who saw this scene were shocked and angry. Looking at the formation of the sorcerer tribe army at the foot of the mountain, it was obvious that they were going to attack. Do they really dare? Even the red-browed eagle king, who was used to seeing the world, was shocked by the formation of the sorcerer tribe army at the foot of the mountain. Those shaman kings were not so easy to deal with. The 8 shaman kings were all ambitious and ruthless heroes of their generation. The reason why the barbarian emperor did not harden his heart to kill the sorcerer tribe for 3,000 years was because the barbarian emperor was still alive, and the other reason was because of the 8 shaman kings. Especially the great shaman king, he was an old antique. 3,000 years ago, it was he who protected the barbarian emperor and retreated. Otherwise, the barbarian emperor would really be in danger. The great shaman king was able to compete with the barbarian emperor. Naturally, he was outstanding. They are courting death. Master is back. How can they still live? Saber King Luo Lai gritted his teeth and said, At this time, a horn sounded at the foot of the mountain. Then the sorcerer tribe army at the foot of the mountain began to attack. Chapter 5001. Woo! A horn sounded in the army camp at the foot of the Funyo Ridge. Then the sorcerer tribe army rushed out of the camp and split into 5 groups, heading straight up the mountain. The sorcerer tribe army was imposing, and they were all infantrymen. Every infantryman held a spear in one hand and a shield in the other as they advanced up the mountain. Wooing, what do you want? At this moment, an angry roar sounded from the mountain. Then countless battle soldiers appeared on the mountain ridge. Surrender or die! A voice rang out from the sorcerer tribe army camp. Wu Ying did not even show himself because he did not need to personally deal with the people on the mountain. To be more precise, the people on the mountain were not qualified for him to deal with them personally. What? Xiao Ye's nose was crooked with anger. At this moment, Wu Ying's army had already reached the middle of the mountain. How dare you! Kill them! Xiao Ye ordered. Kill! The red-browed Eagle King and the rest of the army had already prepared their defenses. With Xiao Ye's command, countless rocks rolled down from the mountain ridge. Humph! 5 sorcerer tribe warriors rushed out from the army. They waved their fists and blew up the stones that rolled down the mountain. These 5 sorcerer tribe warriors were extremely powerful. They were all God King level beings. All the stones that rolled down the mountain were blocked by these 5 God King level warriors. At the sight of this, the countless soldiers on the mountain panicked. Who would be able to stop a God King level battle general? The 5 God King level warriors pounced towards the mountain at an extremely fast speed. Behind them were countless sorcerer tribe warriors. How dare you! Xiao Ye, red-browed Eagle King, and the rest were shocked and angry at the sight. If Gu Fei was here, Wu Ying would not dare to attack Xiao Ye and the rest, even if he was 10 times more courageous. You're dead. The 5 God King level warriors were about to reach the top of the mountain. Meanwhile, Wu Ying's sorcerer tribe army was less than 300 feet away from the top of the mountain. The soldiers under Xiao Ye were pushing rocks and logs down the mountain like crazy. They even pushed balls of fire down the mountain. But without exception, these attacks were all blocked by the 5 great divine kings. Haha, you guys are the ones who are dead. Xiao Ye, who was originally panicking, suddenly laughed out loud. What? When the 5 godly monarch-level battle generals, who were about to reach the top of the ridge, heard this, they immediately had a bad feeling. At this moment, Little Ye had already formed a hand seal. In the next moment, a powerful ripple of energy erupted, and numerous killing arrays appeared out of thin air, directly enveloping the countless shaman warriors that were charging towards them. What? When the 5 great divine king-level battle generals saw this scene, they all turned pale with fright. Countless runes appeared in the air and turned into blades of light. They covered the sky and the earth as they slashed towards the shaman warriors who were enveloped in the killing formation. Soon there was a flash of blood. Countless wizard tribe soldiers were struck by the light blades and fell to the ground, screaming in pain. Buzz! The air rumbled, and more than 10 killing formations appeared on the mountain ridges, enveloping almost all the warriors of the wizard tribe. Roar! The 5 great God King level battle generals almost went crazy when they saw the figures of the witch clan's battle soldiers falling one after another. How is this possible? How did Lilia and the others manage to set up so many killing formations on the mountain? Who could set up more than a dozen killing arrays without anyone noticing? At this moment, countless wizard tribe soldiers were killed by the blades of light in the killing formations. In just a few seconds, the sorcerer tribe army had already suffered heavy losses. Even the 5 great divine king level battle generals were trapped in the killing formations and could not rush out for a while. Ha ha ha, this must be great. Lilia laughed out loud. Red-browed Eagle King and the others were surprised and delighted. In order to lure Wu Ying's army into the trap, they had put up a tough act. This unexpected move allowed Lilia and the others, who were at a disadvantage, to counterattack and kill Wu Ying's army. And these killing formations were actually formed from the array board that Gu Fei had left behind. The array board was really useful. As long as the array board was activated, the runes in the array board would rush out and a killing formation could be set up in an instant. This way, even Lilia and Red-browed Eagle King, who did not understand formations, could use the array board to set up killing formations that could take lives. Hence, Wu Ying fell for the trap. Roar! A roar came from the army camp at the foot of the mountain. A figure rushed out from the army camp and charged up the mountain at an extremely fast speed. Wu Ying had no choice but to take action. Boom! Wu Ying punched one of the killing formations. A violent fist force erupted from his fist and violently smashed against the killing formation. Rumble! The entire killing formation shook violently, but it was not broken by Wu Ying's punch. Instead, many of the wizard tribe soldiers trapped in the killing formation were killed. In an instant, the mountain ridge was filled with murderous intent. Every killing formation was terrifying to the extreme, and they were all quickly reaping lives. Damn it! Wu Ying was almost driven mad. He attacked with all his might and threw out more than 10 punches in a row. Only then did he manage to destroy one of the killing formations. Wild energy exploded, and almost none of the sorcerer tribe soldiers in the killing formation were spared. Only a few survived. Seeing this, Wu Ying could not help but be shocked. He did not dare to break the formation anymore because, even if he did, most of the wizard tribe soldiers in the killing formation would be dead. What a powerful killing formation! Just then a voice came from the sky. Wu Ying looked up and saw a figure walking over from the sky. Although it looked like he was taking a stroll, his speed was extremely fast. The person took a few steps and was already near. You are Ling Tian Palace ancestor Tianhong? Wu Ying saw the appearance of the person and was instantly surprised and happy. Fellow Wu Ying, how have you been? The person smiled at Wu Ying. Brother Tianhong, you came at the right time. Please help me break the formation. Wu Ying saw that his soldiers were falling in the killing formation and could not help but panic. All right. As ancestor Tianhong spoke, he waved his sleeves, and the next moment, array diagrams flew out from his sleeves. They grew rapidly and covered the entire sky. Terrifying, destructive divine light rushed out from the array diagrams and penetrated the killing formation below. Every ray of divine light landed on the eye of the killing formation. The power of the killing formation that Lilia and the rest did not set up was greatly reduced. The 5 godly king level generals took the opportunity to rush out of the killing formation. This guy's array doctrine cultivation is not bad. Chapter 5002. Ling Tian Palace's ancestor of array, Dao, ancestor Tianhong, was here. He was a god that was hard to invite. This caused Wu Ying, who was trapped in a predicament, to be overjoyed. One should know that ancestor Tianhong was not as simple as an array grandmaster. He was a half-step emperor. Ancestor Tianhong's combat power was much higher than Wu Ying's. If ancestor Tianhong was not so obsessed with array Dao, he would have become an emperor a long time ago. At this moment, the entire mountain was enveloped by ancestor Tianhong's array diagram. All the spiritual energy in the air gathered towards the array diagram. The array diagram gathered the power of heaven and earth and turned into a destructive divine light that descended from the sky. It crashed into the killing arrays below. Ancestor Tianhong's array Dao cultivation was not bad. At least, that was what Gu Fei thought. High up in the clouds, Gu Fei had no intention of making a move. Your cheap master is quite capable. Gu Fei crossed his arms and said, Master, are you angry? Long Xiao Zhou asked carefully, Why would I be angry? Have you ever seen a dragon angry at an ant? Gu Fei smiled and said, Master, Do you think the array Tao ancestor of Ling Tian Palace is an ant on the ground? Long Xiaozhou was so shocked by Gu Fei's words that he almost fell from the sky. Isn't that so? Gu Fei shrugged and said disapprovingly. Long Xiaozhou was speechless. If the array Tao ancestor of Ling Tian Palace was an ant, wouldn't everyone in the void realm be an ant? Could it be that the master that he had just acknowledged was so powerful that he did not care about everyone in the world? Long Xiaozhou suddenly recalled the time when Gu Fei killed Man Huang and obtained the incomparably powerful battle armor from him. Could it be because of this? It seemed that master was very confident. Since you have acknowledged me as your master, shouldn't you break off your relationship with your array Tao ancestor? Gu Fei looked at Long Xiaozhou with a faint smile. Long Xiaozhou was in a difficult position. Of course, she did not have a deep relationship with the array formation ancestor of the Ling Tian Palace. This was because she knew very well that the Ling Tian Palace did not accept Long Xiaozhou as a disciple with a simple motive. If Long Xiaozhou hadn't obtained a treasure, like the geocentric yellow spring water, would the array formation ancestor of Ling Tian Palace have taken a liking to an outsider like her? Long Xiaozhou was a member of the West Sea Dragon clan, not a human. Moreover, although Long Xiaozhou had learned quite a number of array formations in the Towering Heaven Palace, she had never received the true inheritance of the array Tao secret techniques. This made Long Xiaozhou very unhappy because the people of Ling Tian Palace obtained what they wanted, but Long Xiaozhou didn't get what she wanted. Long Xiaozhou felt that the people from Ling Tian Palace were being very unfair to him. All right, I don't care what you want to do. However, my knowledge of arrays cannot be leaked. Gu Fei said very seriously to Long Xiaozhou. Yes, master. Long Xiaozhou hurriedly said. At this moment, a deafening noise came from the Crouching Bull Ridge. Long Xiaozhou quickly looked and saw on the ridge in front of her. Balls of divine light exploded and countless array inscriptions dissipated in the divine light. The killing arrays that trapped the Sorcerer Tribe army collapsed, and countless Sorcerer Tribe soldiers that were trapped in the killing arrays rushed out. When Gu Fei saw this scene, he was still calm as usual. Good Lord! On the Crouching Bull Ridge, Xiaoya saw this scene and couldn't help but be moved. The guy in the sky was so powerful that he could break her master's array formation. In Xiaoya's opinion, Master Gu Fei's array formation was absolutely unparalleled. This was because no one could break Gu Fei's killing array until today. Moreover, this was just an array board that Gu Fei casually refined. Haha, Brother Tianhong, I'm really impressed by your array Tao cultivation. When Wu Ying saw this scene, he couldn't help but be surprised and laughed out loud. What, that old man in the sky is Tianhong? When Xiaoya heard Wu Ying's words, she couldn't help but be shocked. As her cultivation continued to increase, Xiaoya's memories from her previous life were almost fully awakened. Ancestor Tianhong was the array Tao ancestor of the Ling Tian Palace. The Ling Tian Palace was a colossus that reigned above the five forces. The array Tao ancestor Tianhong was known as the number one in the Void Realm. His array Tao cultivation was unparalleled. Although Xiaoya was very confident in her master Gu Fei, this guy was ancestor Tianhong. How could she be his opponent? Unless her master Gu Fei personally took action, she wouldn't be qualified to compete with this guy. Your Highness, what should we do? Red-browed Eagle King, one-armed sword King Qiu Qianjian, and the other godly kings looked at Xiaoya in fear. If the array Tao ancestor of the Ling Tian Palace took action, wouldn't they be dead for sure? Ancestor Tianhong was the number one in the Void Realm. No wonder he could break their master's killing array. Master wasn't here, so how could they fight this guy? The godly kings on the mountain were in despair. What's there to be afraid of? So what if he's an array Tao ancestor? My master is the strongest, Xiaoya said loudly. Little brat, you sure talk big. In that case, ask your master to come out and fight with me. Let's see who's stronger. An old voice came down from the sky. Ancestor Tianhong was standing on the array diagram with his hands behind his back. He was like a god looking down at an ant on the ground. "Humph! If you're capable, come and break my killing array." As Xiaoya spoke, she flipped her right hand and a formation board immediately appeared in her hand. In the next moment, the formation board flew up from her hand and floated high up in the sky. Buzz! With a deafening sound, countless runes rushed out of the formation plate and instantly covered the entire mountain. A shocking killing intent appeared between the heavens and earth. This, when Ancestor Tianhong, who was standing on the array diagram, saw this scene, his eyes almost popped out. The other party had set up a killing array in an instant. Moreover, it wasn't that the little brat was powerful. The little brat had only taken out an array board. To an array Dao ancestor like Tianhong, array boards weren't rare items. However, it was the first time he had seen an array board that could set up a killing array in an instant. Even he couldn't refine such an array board. He had to rely on the array diagram to set up his own array. At this moment, Xiaoya activated the array board. The entire killing array enveloped the entire mountain, including Xiaoya and all the troops under her. Countless spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathered from all directions, causing the power of the killing array to multiply. "Your Highness, so you still have a trump card." Red-browed Eagle King, Qiu Qianjian, and the rest were surprised and delighted. Chapter 5003. On the crouching Bull Ridge, 100 miles away from the southern barbarian royal capital, Xiaoya, who was in a difficult situation, still had a trump card. She took out an array board, and in the blink of an eye, a killing array appeared on the ridge and enveloped the entire ridge. On the crouching Bull Ridge, a murderous aura soared and the weather changed. Ling Tian Palace's array formation ancestor, Tianhong, who thought that victory was in his grasp, was dumbfounded. Xiaoya's speed in setting up the array was faster than even him. "Humph, these guys are really reckless. How dare they compete with Master in array formations?" Bai Feng, the sixth disciple of Ancestor Tianhong, who was previously acting like a scoundrel, was disdainful when he saw this scene from a mountain far away. He had absolute confidence in his master, Ancestor Tianhong. Ling Tian Palace's array formation ancestor, Tianhong, was publicly recognized as the #1 array formation expert in the entire Void Realm. No one in the entire Void Realm could surpass him in terms of array formation cultivation. Ling Tian Palace had spent a lot of effort to invite Ancestor Tianhong. "Senior brother, do you think Master will win?" At this moment, a figure appeared on the mountain where Bai Feng was. "Little junior sister, you are here?" Bai Feng was overjoyed when he saw the person who suddenly appeared. It was Long Xiaozhou. Bai Feng did not know that Long Xiaozhou had become the disciple of Gu Fei. "Master is here personally. How can I not come?" Long Xiaozhou smiled. "Little junior sister, you know Master's ability. How can that little guy, Gu Fei, be a match for Master?" Bai Feng said proudly. Then we shall watch Master show off his invincible might here." Long Xiaozhou looked at Bai Feng, the fool, and sneered in her heart. How dare he go against Ling Tian Palace? Isn't he courting death? Bai Feng looked at the crouching Bull Ridge and sneered. "Senior brother is right," Long Xiaozhou replied casually. At this moment, Ancestor Tianhong had already made his move. The array diagram in the sky pressed down from the sky, and a terrifying array formation power descended from the sky and obliterated the killing array below. Rumble, the formation diagram, suppressed the killing formation. The two forces clashed together, causing the entire sky to tremble. Countless formation runes clashed, intertwined, destroyed, and reformed. Gu Fei's most elite army of 200,000 was stationed on the crouching Bull Ridge. Of course, a portion of Gu Fei's 200,000-strong army had been lost in the battle against the sorcerer tribe. Now, Gu Fei's army was less than 200,000 strong. "Haha, you want to break the array? Dream on." Xiaoya laughed heartily. Patriarch Tianhong's array diagram was emitting waves of energy that were getting stronger and stronger, causing the killing array at the top of the mountain to shake continuously. However, Little Ye's killing array blocked Patriarch Tianhong's array diagram that descended from the sky. Humph! If you dare to look down on me, I guarantee that you will die miserably. As Patriarch Tianhong stepped on the array diagram, the power of the array diagram was triggered by him. An unimaginably powerful pressure erupted from the array diagram. Everyone in the vicinity felt the immense pressure. Even Xiaoye, red-browed Eagle King, and the rest felt their souls trembling. Under such pressure, they were as weak as ants. "Old man, you can talk after you break the array." Xiaoye pointed her middle finger at Patriarch Tianhong, who was in the sky. At this moment, the countless people who were protected by the killing array on the top of the mountain could not remain calm. Even red-browed Eagle King, Qiu Qianjian, and the rest were shocked by the scene in front of them. Was this the power of an expert in the array doctrine? It was too terrifying and heaven-defying. High up in the sky, Gu Fei was still calm when he saw the scene. If Patriarch Tianhong only had this little ability, he would not be able to break his array. However, it was obvious that the array doctrine patriarch of the Ling Tian Palace had not given his all. It was not without reason that he was known as the #1 expert in the Void Realm. Humph! At this moment, Patriarch Tianhong sneered. The next moment, the second array diagram pressed down from the sky, and the power of Patriarch Tianhong's array multiplied. Rumble! The top of the mountain that was enveloped by Gu Fei's killing array was shaking. Cracks appeared on the entire mountain as though it could collapse at any time. Everyone at the top of the ridge was half dead. Everyone was terrified to the extreme. Even Xiaoye was nervous at this time. However, even so, Gu Fei's killing array still enveloped the top of the mountain. No matter how powerful Patriarch Tianhong's array diagram was, it could not erase the array patterns of the killing array. Wind, rise! Patriarch Tianhong activated the magic power of the array diagram. The next moment, invisible gales appeared around the top of the mountain and continuously weakened the power of the killing array. However, it was of no use. Fire movement! Patriarch Tianhong shouted. The next moment, towering divine fire surged from the array diagram and enveloped the top of the mountain. Seeing this, Xiaoye and the rest were shocked. Was Patriarch Tianhong going to roast them? The divine fire swept over, and Gu Fei's killing array let out a loud hum. The next moment, a ball of divine light appeared in the void and enveloped the top of the mountain. The light shield that Xiaoye cast out from the killing array blocked the towering divine fire. However, the heat still penetrated through the light shield, and the top of the mountain was like a steamer that was stuffy and stuffy. Even if I can't break this killing array, I can still refine all of you to death. Patriarch Tianhong sneered. Xiaoye and the rest were speechless. Patriarch Tianhong's move was too ruthless. Even they could feel the heat wave assaulting their bodies and were drenched in sweat. The rest were even worse off. Even if Xiaoye and the rest had high cultivation and could hold on, what about the hundreds of thousands of troops under them? The hundreds of thousands of people would not be able to hold on and would be cooked alive. In that case, the troops that Gu Fei had painstakingly built would be wiped out. Gu Fei's men are doomed. Wu Ying, who was watching the battle from afar, laughed. The development of the situation had exceeded his expectations. Even he did not expect the array formation ancestor of Ling Tian Palace to take action personally. In that case, even if Gu Fei came back and wanted to settle scores with someone, he would only look for Ling Tian Palace. This was because Wu Ying had nothing to do with it now. Wu Ying could also extricate himself from this incident. At the thought of this, Wu Ying could not help but laugh. Although Gu Fei was powerful, no matter how powerful he was, could he compete with Ling Tian Palace? That was Ling Tian Palace. Ling Tian Palace had dominated the Void Realm for countless years, and no force had ever been able to shake them. If Gu Fei were to go against Ling Tian Palace, there would only be one outcome, and that was his own destruction. Chapter 5004. Southern Man, one of the 5 main regions of the Void Realm, was in an uproar. Even Ling Tian Palace made a move. All of this was beyond everyone's medical knowledge. It should be known that Ling Tian Palace was an existence that stood above the 5 factions. This inheritance had an extremely high status in the Void Realm. Even the 5 royal lords were suppressed by Ling Tian Palace to the point where they could not even lift their heads. Ling Tian Palace even required the 5 overlords to pay tribute on time and use the resources of the 5 regions to nurture their disciples. Over the years, the Ling Tian Palace had produced many experts. However, there was no reason for it to be destroyed. The Ling Tian Palace had used the resources of the 5 regions of the Mirage Realm to nurture its disciples. If it could not nurture any experts, then the Ling Tian Palace would have fallen long ago. Gu Fei was strong. Since his debut, he had been domineering. No one was a match for him. Even Barbarian Emperor was killed by him. However, even so, no one thought that Gu Fei could fight against Ling Tian Palace. Ling Tian Palace was too strong. The sorcerer tribe wanted to use Wu Ying to test Gu Fei. Who would have thought that the array formation ancestor of Ling Tian Palace would suddenly appear? This way Wu Ying could retreat. This was definitely a good thing for the sorcerer tribe. The sorcerer tribe was happy to see Ling Tian Palace and Gu Fei fight. At this moment, on the Crouching Bull Ridge, the entire sky was burning red. Everyone was shocked by this scene. How could Gu Fei's subordinates, who were trapped on the ridge by the monstrous fire, survive? Haha, they are dead. Wu Ying's subordinates were surprised and happy to see this scene. At this moment, the 19 feudal vassals of Southern Man, the sorcerer tribe, the remnants of Barbarian Emperor, the forces outside of Southern Man, and all the experts in the Void Realm were watching this battle. Everyone was curious. If Gu Fei returned, would he admit defeat or fight against Ling Tian Palace? That was Ling Tian Palace. Unbeknownst to them, Gu Fei had already returned long ago, and he had witnessed the entire battle. Moreover, no one would have guessed that Gu Fei did not care about Ling Tian Palace at all. The so-called array, Dao ancestor, was merely an ant in his eyes. At this moment, Xiao Ye and the rest were in danger on the top of the Crouching Bull Ridge. Although Tian Hong's blazing fire array could not break through Gu Fei's killing array, the heat could still penetrate it. The entire ridge was like a huge steamer basket. Although Xiao Ye and the others could still hold on, as time passed, all of them would be like steamed meat directly steamed. This is the consequence of daring to look down on this sovereign. Ancestor Tian Hong sneered. His voice wasn't loud, but it reached everyone's ears. He had no intention of letting Little Ye and the rest go. Wu Ying and the rest could not help but change their expressions upon hearing this. Everyone knew that the array Dao ancestor of Ling Tian Palace was punishing the chicken to warn the monkey. That old fellow is going to be out of luck. On a distant mountain ridge, Long Xiaozhou sneered. What? Bai Feng, who was beside Long Xiaozhou, was both shocked and furious when he heard this. You dare to call master an old man? Bai Feng looked at Long Xiaozhou as though he was looking at a monster. From today onwards, that old fellow is no longer my master. Long Xiaozhou clenched her teeth. Ancestor Tian Hong was a sanctimonious person. The reason why he took Long Xiaozhou in as a disciple was because he wanted Long Xiaozhou's geocentric netherworld water. When he thought about how the geocentric netherworld water that he risked his life to obtain was forcefully taken away by Ancestor Tian Hong, he was so angry that his teeth itched. You are disgraceful. Are you trying to deceive your master and destroy your ancestors? Bai Feng pointed at Long Xiaozhou and shouted, You can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. Long Xiaozhou was extremely shrewd. She would not admit to deceiving her master and destroying her ancestors. You I am going to clean up the sect for Master. As Bai Feng spoke, he attacked Long Xiaozhou. This was a rare opportunity to obtain the geocentric netherworld water. If he captured Long Xiaozhou, everything on her would be his spoils of war. He extended his right hand and grabbed at Long Xiaozhou. Although Bai Feng cultivated array Dao, it did not mean that his combat power was weak. His right hand was like a venomous snake, grabbing at Long Xiaozhou's throat with lightning speed. Capturing Long Xiaozhou would definitely be a great achievement. However, Long Xiaozhou's movement technique was even faster than his. She moved her legs and immediately dodged Bai Feng's right hand. Then, she punched at Bai Feng's head. Bai Feng was shocked when he saw that. This junior sister's cultivation seemed to have improved a lot. Two figures moved quickly on the mountain ridge and started fighting. How is this possible? Bai Feng became more and more shocked as he fought. Boom! At that moment, a loud bang came from the direction of the Crouching Bull Ridge. The next moment, the towering fire at the top of the ridge disappeared as though it had never appeared. Then, everyone saw a figure standing in the sky above the ridge with his hands behind his back. He was looking at Ancestor Tianhong coldly. The array diagram under Ancestor Tianhong's feet was dim, as though it could dissipate into the void at any time. Who are you? How dare you break my array formation? Ancestor Tianhong stared at the young man in black in shock and anger. If looks could kill, the young man in black would have died many times over. It's him. He's back. Wu Ying, who was watching the battle nearby, was shocked when he saw the young man in black. Who else could it be but Gu Fei? Gu Fei's return shocked everyone who knew about Gu Fei. However, many people were excited. Gu Fei actually dared to go against the array Dao ancestor of Ling Tian Palace. The show would definitely be exciting. Master! Master! On the top of the Crouching Bull Ridge, Xiaoya, red-browed Eagle King, and the others were shocked when they saw Gu Fei. He's Gu Fei! Someone shouted. What? You're Gu Fei? Ancestor Tianhong was shocked. This person was able to break his array formation and save the people on the ridge. He must be quite capable. As the saying went, an expert would know once he made a move. Ancestor Tianhong did not dare to look down on Gu Fei. How dare you attack my people? You must be tired of living. Gu Fei looked at Ancestor Tianhong coldly. What did you say? Ancestor Tianhong was enraged. Are you deaf? I said, you must be tired of living. Gu Fei shouted at Ancestor Tianhong. His voice reverberated in the mountains. Kid, you're courting death. Ancestor Tianhong roared and attacked. Countless array diagrams appeared in the void like a giant net and enveloped Gu Fei. Master, be careful. Master, be careful. Xiao Ye, red-browed Eagle King, and the others were shocked when they saw Ancestor Tianhong's attack. Just an ant. Chapter 5005. Gu Fei finally made his move. At this point, he had no choice but to make a move. He couldn't just watch as Xiao Ye, red-browed Eagle King, and the rest were refined to death by Ancestor Tianhong. When Wu Ying and the rest saw Gu Fei appear, they were shocked. This guy finally appeared. However, even though Gu Fei was amazing and even killed Barbarian Emperor, no one thought highly of him. After all, Gu Fei was going up against Ling Tian Palace. Ling Tian Palace was an existence that was above the 5 emperors. Although Ling Tian Palace wasn't the overlord, it was the true ruler of the Void Realm. How could Gu Fei have any chance of winning against such an existence? The people from the sorcerer tribe were gloating and couldn't wait for Gu Fei to be killed by the people from Ling Tian Palace. However, the combat power that Gu Fei displayed shocked everyone to the extreme. The array formation ancestor of Ling Tian Palace was actually suppressed by him. Gu Fei's sleeves fluttered, and Ancestor Tianhong's array diagram was casually dispersed by him. Countless array patterns dissipated in the void. What? Patriarch Tianhong was shocked and furious when he saw that. Every attack from the other party was aimed at the flaws of his array diagram, causing it to shatter immediately. How could he see through the flaws in his array diagram? Ancestor Tian Hong was in disbelief. His array diagram wasn't flawless and had flaws. In fact, all the array formations in the world had flaws. Ancestor Tian Hong knew his limitations. With his array formation skills, it was impossible for him to set up a flawless array formation. In fact, even Gu Fei couldn't set up a flawless array formation. However, he could hide the flaws of the array formation. In Gu Fei's eyes, Ancestor Tian Hong's array formation was full of flaws. This was the difference between the two of them in terms of array Dao. Is that all you've got? Gu Fei stood in the air and countless array patterns dissipated around him. What? Ancestor Tian Hong was so infuriated by Gu Fei that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. This fellow was too arrogant. He actually dared to look down on him. He was the #1 expert in the Tao of arrays in the Void Realm. When had he ever been looked down upon by a little fella? All right, today I will show you what an array Tao is. As Gu Fei spoke, he spread his hands before him and 5 formation discs immediately appeared before him. Each disc was extremely exquisite and shrouded in a ball of spiritual light. Furthermore, every array disc represented a powerful force. 5 elements. Ancestor Tian Hong's eyeballs almost dropped to the ground. This guy could actually set up the 5 elements formation? How is this possible? Ancestor Tian Hong was really shocked. This Gu Fei could actually control the power of the 5 elements at the same time. This kind of array Dao cultivation was really terrifying. To control the power of the 5 elements at the same time, a moment of carelessness could lead to the collapse of the array Dao and death. Just as Ancestor Tian Hong was in shock, Gu Fei had already made his move. With a wave of his right hand, the 5 array discs that were floating in front of him immediately soared into the sky and suppressed Ancestor Tian Hong in 5 directions. Ancestor Tian Hong's expression changed when he saw this. Without hesitation, he soared into the sky and tried to escape. "Array, rise!" Gu Fei shouted. The next moment, the 5 array discs that were suppressing the 5 directions suddenly exploded with dazzling divine light. The power of the 5 elements exploded and turned into a layer of 5-colored divine light that enveloped the entire void. Bam! Ancestor Tian Hong, who soared into the sky, collided with the 5 elements light shield. He became dizzy from the impact and fell from the sky. "All right, if you can come out within 3 days, I will consider it my loss." Gu Fei was very confident. Seeing this scene, countless people who were watching the battle were inexplicably shocked. Ancestor Tian Hong would never surrender obediently. However, no matter how hard he tried to attack the 5-element array, he couldn't get out. He was suddenly trapped in the 5 elements array. This Gu Fei, Wu Ying was shocked and angry. Gu Fei's array, Dao cultivation, was far above Ancestor Tian Hong. How was this possible? Ancestor Tian Hong was the array Dao ancestor of Ling Tian Palace. The 19 feudal vassal kings were also dumbfounded by Gu Fei. No one would have thought that the array Dao ancestor of Ling Tian Palace would actually be trapped by Gu Fei's array Dao. This was too ironic. After Gu Fei trapped Ancestor Tian Hong, he didn't care about him anymore. Master. At this moment, Xiaoya, red-browed Eagle King, and the rest had already rushed over. If it wasn't for Gu Fei, they would have been refined to death by Ancestor Tian Hong. "All right, bring your army and take over South Man capital. Let's see who dares to stop us." Gu Fei's voice wasn't loud, but it was heard by everyone present. This made Wu Ying extremely shocked. That day, he was the one who stopped Xiaoya and the rest from entering South Man capital. At that time, Gu Fei wasn't around, but now it was different. Gu Fei had already announced that whoever dared to stop Xiaoya and the rest would face serious consequences. The 19 feudal vassal kings of South Man were watching the show. They wanted to see how the sorcerer tribe would react. Would they admit defeat or go against Gu Fei? Gu Fei easily defeated the array Tao ancestor of Ling Tian Palace. He didn't even care about the people from Ling Tian Palace. Would he be afraid of the sorcerer tribe? At this moment, the other shaman kings were also shocked. Yes, master. Yes, master, Xiaoya, Red-Browed Eagle King. And the rest quickly accepted the order. Without further ado, Xiaoya, Red-Browed Eagle King, and the rest immediately began to reorganize the army. Then they led the army down Crouching Bull Ridge and headed straight for South Man capital. Seeing this scene, the shaman kings present couldn't remain calm, especially Wu Ying. Fellow Gu, the South Man capital has been taken over by the sorcerer tribe. You don't have to worry about it. Wu Ying stood up and said. When the surrounding spectators saw this, they couldn't help but give Wu Ying a thumbs up. This guy had guts. He actually dared to say such words in front of Gu Fei. You still dare to speak out? When Gu Fei saw that it was Wu Ying, he was instantly enraged. It was this guy who chased Xiaoya and the rest to Crouching Bull Ridge. If he hadn't returned in time, Xiaoya and the rest would have been refined to death by ancestor Tianhong. Fellow Gu, what do you mean by this? Wu Ying was shocked and angry. Come here. Gu Fei's right hand grabbed at Wu Ying, who was in the distance. Wu Ying immediately felt his body tighten. Then, he flew towards Gu Fei involuntarily. What? Wu Ying was really shocked. He tried his best to activate his mystic art, trying to break free from the engulfing power that enveloped him. However, it was all in vain. Gu Fei grabbed the throat of Wu Ying, who was flying towards him, and lifted him up. In front of Gu Fei, Wu Ying, one of the 8 great shaman kings of the sorcerer tribe, was as weak as a chick. Chapter 5006. On the Crouching Bull Ridge, Gu Fei casually cast a 5-element array and trapped the arrogant array formation ancestor, Tianhong. Gu Fei's move stunned everyone present. One should know that ancestor Tianhong was the array formation ancestor of the Ling Tian Palace. Ancestor Tianhong was known as the number 1 person in the Void Realm. This was not an undeserved reputation. Ancestor Tianhong really had the ability to do so. However, today, Gu Fei completely defeated ancestor Tianhong in terms of array formation. How could everyone who witnessed this scene not be shocked? Haha, master is awesome. At this moment, Long Xiaozhou, who was chasing after Baifeng, laughed. Baifeng was very cunning. When he saw that the situation wasn't good, he immediately ignored his master, ancestor Tianhong, and fled by himself. However, he was targeted by Long Xiaozhou. Baifeng was also very despicable. He also had his eyes on her geocentric netherworld water. He had dug many traps for her to jump into. How could she let him go? You deceived your master and destroyed your ancestors. Baifeng was shocked and angry. He ran forward without looking back. If Gu Fei attacked him, he would be finished. Haha, you don't treat me as a disciple or junior sister. You only covet my geocentric netherworld water. Long Xiaozhou sneered. Both of them were very fast. Soon, they were more than 100 miles away. At this moment, Gu Fei grabbed Wu Ying from afar. He grabbed Wu Ying's neck and lifted him up. Gu Fei, what are you doing? Wu Ying was shocked and angry. Even the other shaman kings were inexplicably shocked. They had never imagined that Gu Fei would suddenly attack Wu Ying. And Wu Ying, a dignified shaman king, was completely powerless against Gu Fei. That was a shaman king, a powerful existence, half a step into the martial emperor realm. Such a powerful existence was as weak as an ant in front of Gu Fei. Haha, don't you know what I'm doing? Gu Fei laughed. What did you say? My sorcerer tribe has formed an alliance with you. Do you want to tear up the alliance and become the laughingstock of the world by attacking your ally? Wu Ying said loudly. You also know that I'm an ally of the wizard tribe? Gu Fei tightened his grip on Wu Ying's neck. Wu Ying's breathing quickened and he almost couldn't breathe. Gu Fei, what do you mean by that? Wu Ying felt that something was wrong. What do you think? Gu Fei sneered. You Wu Ying sensed a murderous aura from Gu Fei, which scared him so much that he almost peed his pants. This Gu Fei was a killing god. He even dared to kill the barbarian emperor. Moreover, even the Ling Tian Palace's old ancestor Tianhong was trapped by him. This fella was simply a killer who feared nothing. Gu Fei, have mercy. Wu Fong was here. If he did not show up, Wu Ying would be done for. You want me to have mercy? This fella forced my people into a dead end. If I didn't come back in time, wouldn't my people have been wiped out? Gu Fei said angrily. Wu Fong heard this and didn't know what to say for a moment. Wu Ying was in the wrong in this matter, but he didn't deserve to die. Gotcha! Just as Wu Fong was hesitating and didn't know what to say, Gu Fei exerted force with his right hand and broke Wu Ying's neck. Wu Ying, the shaman king of a generation, didn't expect that Gu Fei would actually dare to kill him. He was a shaman king who was second only to one. He didn't even care about the great shaman king, let alone the other shaman kings. Wu Fong was dumbfounded. This Gu Fei actually killed Wu Ying. What should he do? The others who saw this scene were also dumbfounded. This Gu Fei really dared to do it. That was a shaman king of the sorcerer tribe. He even dared to kill a shaman king. I heard that the shaman emperor has come out of seclusion. Haha, there will be another exciting show soon. Some people wished for the world to be in chaos. The 19 southern barbarian feudal lords were also shocked by Gu Fei's means. Gu Fei didn't care who these guys were, as long as they dared to lay their hands on his people. He would kill them even if they were the emperor. In fact, Gu Fei was killing the chicken to warn the monkey. Killing Wu Ying could intimidate everyone and make them not dare to act rashly. Humph! Gu Fei threw Wu Ying's body aside and then rushed into the sky towards the southern barbarian royal capital. A powerful aura exploded and instantly enveloped the entire southern barbarian royal capital. At this time, Xiaoye and the red-browed Eagle King were still on their way with the army. People of the sorcerer tribe, get out of the southern barbarian royal capital. Gu Fei roared. His voice instantly spread throughout the entire southern barbarian royal capital, causing the ears of everyone in the city to buzz. When the people of the sorcerer tribe in the southern barbarian royal capital heard this, they were shocked and angry. There was actually someone who dared to tell them to get out of the southern barbarian royal capital. Did this guy eat a bear's heart and leopard's gall? Who are you? How dare you come here and behave atrociously? A figure rushed out of the southern barbarian royal palace. Bam! Gu Fei didn't even bother to speak. He directly punched this guy into a cloud of blood mist. In an instant, his body and soul were destroyed, and he died. The people in the city who saw this scene were stunned. Isn't that the expert of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Wu? He was actually killed by a punch just like that? Someone recognized the origin of the person who rushed out of the royal palace and couldn't help but exclaim. However, this scene happened too quickly. Wu Wu Wu! Isn't that the expert who is the strongest under the 8 kings? Who dares to kill him? Many people were shocked to the extreme. This Wu 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 was the strongest under the 8 kings. In the sorcerer tribe, he had a high position and power. However, in front of Gu Fei, this guy was just a fart. I won't say it for the 3rd time. All the sorcerer tribesmen in the southern barbarian royal capital, get out of the royal capital. Gu Fei's voice once again spread throughout the royal capital. Countless people of the sorcerer tribe in the city didn't know what was going on and were all stunned. Gu Fei, don't go too far. At this time, an old voice came from the southern barbarian royal palace. I'm going too far. Gu Fei smiled. Well, how about we each take a step back? The voice came from the royal palace again. How do we retreat? How do we retreat? Gu Fei said expressionlessly. Wu Ying brought this upon himself and deserved to die. However, he is, after all, one of the 8 kings of the sorcerer tribe. Since you have already killed him, how about we write off the grievances between us? The old voice said. It's impossible to write it off, unless you sorcerer tribe get out of the southern barbarian royal capital now. Gu Fei said sternly. The old man in the royal palace was stunned when he heard this. He wanted them to give up the southern barbarian royal capital. How was this possible? Chapter 5007. People of the Sorcerer Tribe, get out of the southern man's royal capital. Gu Fei's voice instantly spread throughout the entire southern man's capital. Everyone was inexplicably shocked. His voice was incomparably loud, like a clap of thunder exploding in the ears of countless people, causing their ears to buzz. The ordinary people were still fine, but the experts in the city were not so good. The voice that Gu Fei made contained the killing technique of sound, causing their blood to boil. This Gu Fei. In the city, in the palace of the Sorcerer Tribe, the heaven witch priest was sitting on the throne. She naturally heard Gu Fei's voice and was equally shocked. However, what shocked her even more was the news that she had just received. Wu Ying was actually dead. Furthermore, his neck had been broken by Gu Fei with a single grip. This matter really shocked the heaven witch priest Wu Lingxue. One should know that the person Gu Fei killed was not an ordinary person, but one of the 8 great witch kings of the Sorcerer Tribe. The 8 great witch kings of the Sorcerer Tribe had a very high prestige in the Sorcerer Tribe. Their status was second only to the Sorcerer King, and even the saintess of the Sorcerer Tribe had to lower her head to them, especially Wu Ying, who was the warmonger among the 8 great witch kings of the Sorcerer Tribe. He had always advocated being tough with the Barbarian King, and never compromised with the Barbarian King. The Barbarian King did not touch Wu Ying for the sake of the overall situation, but Gu Fei was different. He had no scruples, and this was what Wu Ying could not see through. The Barbarian King could tolerate him, but Gu Fei did not. If you dare to provoke me, I will kill you with one slap. This was Gu Fei. Many people in the Sorcerer Tribe were still unclear of the situation. They thought that, by allying with Gu Fei, they could test Gu Fei at will. However, they did not know that if they crossed Gu Fei's bottom line, there would be such serious consequences. Now, only 7 of the 8 great witch kings of the Sorcerer Tribe were left. Wu Yi, the number 1 person below the Witch King, was also smashed into pieces by Gu Fei. The Sorcerer Tribe did not suffer such a huge loss when they attacked the southern man's royal capital previously. This madman in the main hall of the imperial palace of the southern man royal capital, the other Magus kings were both shocked and furious. What? Still not getting the hell out of the imperial capital? Could it be that you want me to personally invite you out? Gu Fei's tone turned cold, and a shocking killing intent appeared in the world. The temperature of the entire world seemed to have dropped in an instant. Especially the experts in the city. They were even more frightened. The distance between Crouching Bull Ridge and Nanman Royal Capital was not far. The news that Wu Ying had died at the hands of Gu Fei had already spread throughout Nanman Royal Capital. Instantly, the entire city was shaken and countless sorcerer tribesmen were terrified. But without the orders from above, no one dared to act rashly, and no one dared to escape the southern man imperial capital. Sigh. Faced with Gu Fei's forcefulness, even the great mage king could not help but sigh. Retreat. In the main hall of the imperial palace, the great witch king sighed with a desolate expression. The great witch king was very clear that once a person like Gu Fei had the intention to kill, and they did not do as Gu Fei said, then Gu Fei would definitely kill them. This was unquestionable because he had even killed Wu Ying. How could he show mercy to them? Wu Ying's death was his own doing. He insisted on testing Gu Fei. But now, if they did not retreat from the southern man royal capital, then all of them would have to die. The sorcerer tribesmen originally had a good hand of cards in their hands, but they ended up in such a state. There was no one else like this. If they did not seek death, they would die. Retreat? Boss, what did you say? Yes, such a big imperial capital. Just because of a sentence from Gu Fei, we have to give it up? The other Magus kings present were filled with hatred. Yes, the barbarian emperor was killed by Gu Fei, but with Gu Fei's power, it was unrealistic for him to take over the imperial capital. Only the sorcerer tribesmen had the power to take over the entire imperial capital and not let the imperial capital fall into chaos. Once the sorcerer tribesmen withdrew, the imperial capital was likely to be in chaos. And now, Gu Fei's army was rushing towards the southern Man royal capital. Even if the 19 feudal vassals of southern Man were nearby, none of the feudal vassals dared to attack Xiaoye and the others. Wu Ying was an example. Gu Fei killed him without batting an eye. Who dared to provoke Gu Fei? Tired of living? Even the sorcerer emperor did not appear. And at this time, in a tribe 300 miles away from the southern Man royal capital, Long Xiaozhou successfully intercepted Bai Feng. "Junior sister, we are brothers and sisters after all. Can't you let me go?" Bai Feng had to beg for mercy. With the appearance of Long Xiaozhou and Bai Feng, the tribe was suddenly in chaos. Countless soldiers in animal skins rushed out from all over the tribe and surrounded Long Xiaozhou and Bai Feng. The current situation of southern Man was not very good. Previously, after the war with the Eastern Wilderness Demon Clan and the West Sea Dragon Clan, most of the soldiers in this tribe had been transferred away. The remaining soldiers were all old, weak, and disabled. They did not have much combat power at all. "If you want to live, stay far away from me." Long Xiaozhou roared at the tribal soldiers who surrounded them. Her roar, however, was like a sudden clap of thunder, which directly stunned those tribal warriors who had surrounded her. "Retreat!" An old man walked out of the tribe and ordered. The surrounding soldiers immediately retreated far away. No one present was qualified to intervene in this kind of battle between experts. Their tribe was not a big tribe, so they could only retreat. The battle between these two had nothing to do with them. Staying out of it was the best choice. "You want me to let you go? Give me a reason." Long Xiaozhou said to Bai Feng, "I can give you everything I have. How about it?" Bai Feng hurriedly said, "Tisk, have you forgotten who I am? In my eyes, your entire fortune is not even worth mentioning." Long Xiaozhou said disdainfully, she was the youngest daughter of the West Sea Old Dragon Emperor. What did she not have? "Little junior sister, you're underestimating your senior brother." Bai Feng sneered. "Who is your junior sister?" Long Xiaozhou said angrily, "Little junior sister, can this thing exchange for my life?" Bai Feng did not care whether Long Xiaozhou was angry or not. He directly flipped his right hand, and a fist-sized red thing appeared in his hand. "This is scarlet fire, pure gold?" Long Xiaozhou immediately exclaimed when she saw the thing in Bai Feng's hand. "How about it? A divine weapon refined with this scarlet fire, pure gold, is the top divine weapon in the Void Realm. This thing can exchange for my life." Bai Feng smiled proudly. "I want this thing. Then hand over your interspatial ring and scram." Long Xiaozhou said coldly, "What? You want my interspatial ring?" Bai Feng immediately looked unhappy. "Junior sister, it's not good to be too greedy." Bai Feng gritted his teeth and said, "Cut the crap. Leave these two things and scram. Otherwise I will change my mind." Long Xiaozhou said as she flipped her right hand, and an array board with 5 elements essence qi appeared in her hand. A powerful wave of energy fluctuated from the array board. This. Chapter 5008. Although Long Xiaozhou had only followed Gu Fei for a short period of time, her talent in array formation was really good. Otherwise, Gu Fei would not have accepted her as a disciple. This 5 elements array board was an array board that Long Xiaozhou refined herself under Gu Fei's guidance. The array formation of the array board was the 5 elements killing array. As soon as Long Xiaozhou took out this array board, Bai Feng immediately felt the murderous aura from it. If this array board was activated by Long Xiaozhou, he Bai Feng would be out of luck. Therefore, as the 6th disciple of the array formation ancestor of the Ling Tian Palace, he had no choice but to admit defeat. "You win." Bai Feng threw away the scarlet fire pure gold and his interspatial ring before running away dejectedly. The people in this tribe were worried that the 2 of them would destroy the houses in the tribe if they fought. Who would have thought that the two of them did not fight. For this tribe, the fact that Long Xiaozhou and Bai Feng did not fight was definitely something worth rejoicing over. Long Xiaozhou did not care about the small Bai Feng. She kept the pure red fire gold and Bai Feng's storage ring, turned around, and rushed to the Southern Man royal capital. Currently, countless people of the Sorcerer clan were packing up their valuables and preparing to leave the Southern Man royal capital. It had to be said that the Sorcerer clan came in high spirits but returned in disappointment. Not only did they not get anything, but a Sorcerer King was also killed. The Sorcerer King, who was supposed to appear, did not show up in the end. This caused the major forces to speculate why the Sorcerer King did not appear, why the Sorcerer King did not stand up for the Sorcerer clan, and let the Sorcerer clan be bullied by Gu Fei. The entire Sorcerer tribe had lost all face because they had been forced by Gu Fei's threat and had no choice but to withdraw from the Southern Man royal capital, which was already in their hands. Soon, Gu Fei's army arrived at the Southern Man royal capital. It was impossible for an army of less than 200,000 to completely control the entire Southern Man royal capital. However, soon, someone came to seek refuge with Gu Fei. No one would have thought that the first person to seek refuge with Gu Fei would actually be the fierce Tiger King, who had been beaten half to death by Gu Fei. And this fierce Tiger King was previously a loyal follower of the barbarian sovereign, but now he had actually sided with Gu Fei. This caused everyone's jaws to almost drop to the ground. Fierce Tiger King brought over 100,000 troops into the Southern Man imperial capital. Because of the submission of the fierce Tiger King, this allowed Gu Fei to quickly control the situation in the Southern Man imperial capital. Then there was the North Vanquishing King, one of the 19 vassal kings. He also brought his army to pledge allegiance to Gu Fei. As a result, Gu Fei's power increased greatly. Those who wanted to see Gu Fei make a fool of himself were all dumbfounded. With the support of the two vassal kings, Gu Fei finally gained a foothold in the southern barbarian royal capital. However, he had fallen out with the witch race. As a result, not many people were optimistic about Gu Fei. Moreover, in the eastern region of Southern Man, there were still remnants of Southern Man by Go, was the god of war under the barbarian sovereign. In the battle with the eastern barbarian demon race, Bai Ji's performance was remarkable. Now, some people said that the second son of the barbarian sovereign Manu had fled to the eastern region of Southern Man and sought refuge with the god of war by Ge. Although the barbarian sovereign was killed by Gu Fei, there were still many remnants of the barbarian sovereign. These remnants were gathering towards the eastern region of Southern Man and formed a considerable force. Some people said that the most mysterious second god of war under the barbarian sovereign had also appeared. Man, you still had a chance to turn the tables? This was something that many people were curious about. One of the 19 vassal kings of Southern Man, East Vanquishing King, also came out to support Manu. This was not a good thing for Gu Fei and the witch race. The eastern region of Southern Man was still very large. Within the area controlled by East Vanquishing King, there were countless human tribes. It could be said that East Vanquishing King had many experts under him. When God of War by Go was fighting against the Eastern barbarian demon race, East Vanquishing King had also put in a lot of effort. Now that East Vanquishing King had come out to support Manu, the feudal lords who were still watching from the sidelines found it difficult to make a decision. The witch race, Gu Fei, and the remnants of the barbarian sovereign. The entire Southern Man was divided into 3 camps. The entire Southern Man was in a tripartite situation. However, the West Sea Dragon race wouldn't make a move again, but it was hard to say for the Eastern barbarian demon race. Man Yu was in the middle of the Eastern barbarian demon race and Gu Fei's forces. If the Eastern barbarian demon race and Gu Fei attacked at the same time, Man Yu would be in danger. All the forces were watching from the sidelines. This was too difficult. They originally thought that after the fall of the barbarian sovereign, Southern Man would be the world of the witch race. Who would have thought that the witch race would fall out with Gu Fei? Gu Fei was a peerless savage who had even killed the barbarian sovereign. In this way, How could the forces of Southern Man choose? Gu Fei was so awesome that he didn't even give face to the witch race. He even killed Wu Ying, one of the 8 great witch kings. Wasn't going against him courting death? However, if they sided with Gu Fei, they would undoubtedly become enemies with the witch race. The witch race still had a witch sovereign. It was too difficult. It was really too difficult. Most of the feudal lords of Southern Man were still watching from the sidelines. One must know that at this time they must not stand on the wrong side. The consequences of standing on the wrong side were very serious. They might lose their lives at any time. At this time, Gu Fei had completely taken control of the Southern Man royal capital. He didn't stop, but began to expand outwards with the Southern Man royal capital as the center. Kill whoever refuses to obey. Gu Fei was extremely domineering. No matter who it was his army. If they refused to obey, he would kill. Those who surrendered would live, and those who resisted would die. It was that simple. Fierce Tiger King and North Garrison King took the lead. In just over 10 days, with the Southern Man royal capital as the center, the area within a radius of thousands of miles became Gu Fei's world. When the feudal lords encountered Gu Fei's army, none of them dared to fight. When Gu Fei's army arrived, they all withdrew from their cities and handed the cities and territories over to Gu Fei. There were also mysterious figures who attacked the generals under Gu Fei. A few of the generals under Fierce Tiger King were killed by the mysterious figures. This made Fierce Tiger King furious, but there was nothing he could do. And the most pathetic person was the array formation ancestor of the Ling Tian Palace, who was trapped in the Crouching Bull Ridge by Gu Fei's 5 elements killing array. That guy had been trapped in the 5 elements killing array for more than 10 days, let alone 3 days. Ancestor Tian Hong was quite strong-willed. He actually didn't beg for mercy from Gu Fei. At this time in the Ling Tian Palace, in front of a cave abode with its door closed, more than 10 powerful figures gathered. They were all welcoming their palace, lord out of seclusion. This was also the reason why no one from the Ling Tian Palace made a move in the past 10 days. Many people were prepared to watch the show. The reason why the feudal lords among the 19 feudal lords of Southern Man who were still observing didn't dare to rely on Gu Fei now was because Gu Fei was going against the Ling Tian Palace. That was the Ling Tian Palace. The palace lord of the Ling Tian Palace, Ancestor Ling Tian, was known as the strongest expert in the Void Realm. In many people's opinion, as long as Ancestor Ling Tian arrived, Gu Fei would definitely be dead. Chapter 5009. When Gu Fei made a move, even the witch tribe had to bow their heads. All the witch tribe members withdrew from the southern barbarian royal capital. Gu Fei's subordinates not only took over the entire southern barbarian royal capital, but they also expanded in all directions with the southern barbarian royal capital as the center. Countless forces submitted to them. If they didn't submit, they would die. Gu Fei even killed the barbarian sovereign, let alone the others. The feudal vassals who were still watching from the sidelines restrained their subordinates. As long as they encountered Gu Fei's army, they would retreat instead of fighting. Although some feudal vassals were unhappy, they had no choice. On the other hand, East King's army fought with Gu Fei's Fierce Tiger King's army, and both sides won and lost. East King's force was the strongest among the eastern feudal vassals of Southern Barbarian. Moreover, East King had some relationship with Ling Tian Palace. Because of this relationship, East King dared to go against Gu Fei. If he didn't have some background and a strong backer, East King wouldn't dare to provoke Gu Fei. After all, the consequences of provoking Gu Fei were very serious. Moreover, East King used the name of Barbarian Sovereign's second son to gather the remaining forces of Barbarian Sovereign. Barbarian Sovereign had been operating in Southern Barbarian for 3,000 years. His forces had penetrated everywhere in Southern Barbarian. Although Barbarian Sovereign was killed by Gu Fei, many people were still loyal to him. These people knew that Manu was with East King, so they all sought refuge with him. In fact, Everyone knew that East King was using Manu to gather the remaining forces of barbarian sovereign. His goal was to increase his own strength and then fight for hegemony in southern barbarian. East King's ambition wasn't small. When barbarian sovereign was around, he could still suppress him. Now that barbarian sovereign was killed by Gu Fei, no one in southern barbarian could suppress this feudal vassal. East King also obtained the support of Ling Tian Palace. Even if he went against the shaman sovereign, he wouldn't be afraid. Right now, the South barbarians were in a tripartite situation. However, everyone knew that this situation would not last for long, because whether it was the East King, the Sorcerer tribe, or Gu Fei, none of them would share the South barbarians with others. This was especially so for Gu Fei. He was extremely domineering and did not even care about the Ling Tian Palace. In his eyes, the East King and the Sorcerer tribe were all the same. They were all trash that could not withstand a single blow. At this moment, the door of a cave residence in Ling Tian Palace slowly opened. The dozen or so powerful beings guarding outside the cave were extremely excited when they saw this. Palace Lord has finally come out of seclusion. The upper echelons of Ling Tian Palace had gathered here. They had been waiting for more than 10 days. Today, their palace lord had finally come out of seclusion. As the door of the cave slowly opened, an incomparably pure spiritual energy gushed out of the cave. The group of Ling Tian Palace's higher-ups outside the cave abode only felt the spiritual energy rushing towards them. Everyone's spirits were lifted. At this moment, a figure walked out of the cave abode. This person was dressed in a fluttering white robe. Her black hair draped over her shoulders. She was petite and had a pair of shiny black eyes that exuded boundless spirituality. No one would have thought that the palace lord of Ling Tian Palace, known as the #1 person in the Void Realm, was actually a woman. Her face was covered, and only a pair of eyes that were filled with spirituality could be seen. Her eyes seemed to have some kind of unimaginable power. No one dared to look at her directly. Her eyes seemed to be able to hook people's souls. Greetings, Palace Lord. When the group of Ling Tian Palace's higher-ups outside the cave abode saw the woman in white, they immediately knelt down. The woman in white casually waved her right hand. Everyone immediately stood up. The legendary ancestor Ling Tian was actually a woman. If people knew about this, their jaws would definitely drop to the ground. Lord Palace Master, your cultivation! A middle-aged man with a fat face and big ears greeted her with a smile. He was Ling Tian Palace's Foreign Affairs Elder, Qian Yishan, who was in charge of finances. The woman in white glanced at Qian Yishan and did not speak. Fatty Qian, go away. An old man behind Qian Yishan pushed him to the side. Palace Lord, you have to save senior brother Tianhong. The old man looked anxious. Tianhong? What happened to him? Ling Tian Palace's palace lord looked at the old man curiously. This old man was the battle elder of Ling Tian Palace. He was in charge of Ling Tian Palace's external forces and was the most authoritative existence in Ling Tian Palace besides the palace lord. When Fatty Qian saw that it was the battle elder who pushed him away, he immediately cowered. One of them was in charge of money, while the other was in charge of fighting. It was obvious who was stronger and who was weaker. Palace Lord, Senior Brother Tianhong has been trapped for 16 days. If you still don't come out, Senior Brother Tianhong will be trapped in the array and die. The battle elder said hurriedly. What? Ling Tian Palace's palace lord's eyes flashed coldly. In this void realm, there was actually someone who could use an array to trap Tianhong for 16 days? How was this possible? Ling Tian Palace's palace lord was in disbelief. However, the battle elder did not dare to lie to him. Interesting. Ling Tian Palace's palace lord suddenly smiled. Her eyes turned into crescent moons and a powerful aura erupted from her body. Everyone felt as though there was a mountain pressing down on them. Even their breathing quickened. Everyone present was the upper echelon of Ling Tian Palace. Although they were not Emperor Realm experts, They were either half-step Emperor realm experts or peak God King realm experts. When this group of people gathered together, it was enough to sweep the entire Void Realm. In the next moment, Ling Tian Palace's palace lord disappeared in front of everyone. Everyone was inexplicably shocked. None of them could clearly see how their palace master left. This was too frightening. One should know that there were half-step Emperor realm experts among them. Could it be that the princess's cultivation has already surpassed the Emperor realm? Fatty Qian exclaimed. The group of Ling Tian Palace's upper echelon was shocked to the extreme. Could their palace lord's cultivation have really broken through to that legendary realm? If that was the case, that Gu Fei was nothing in front of the palace lord. The legendary realm was absolutely invincible in the Void Realm. The group of Ling Tian Palace's upper echelon was extremely excited. Ha ha ha! That Gu Fei won't be able to jump around for long. The battle elder of Ling Tian Palace laughed loudly. At this moment, in the sky above Crouching Bull Ridge, 100 miles away from the southern barbarian royal capital, countless array patterns intertwined and the power of the 5 elements surged. An old man was rampaging in the array, looking extremely pathetic. This old man was the Ling Tian Palace's #1 array Dao expert in the Void Realm, Ancestor Tianhong. However, Ancestor Tianhong's hair and eyebrows were all burnt and his clothes were tattered. Although he had been trapped for 16 days, he was still very vigorous. However, he was already in a mess. Why? Aren't you going to kneel and beg for mercy? Chapter 5010. 100 miles away from the southern barbarian royal capital, the Crouching Bull Ridge was filled with murderous intent. The sky above the Crouching Bull Ridge changed color as the power of the 5 elements gathered and countless formation patterns intertwined. An extremely terrifying and powerful energy wave spread in all directions, with the Crouching Bull Ridge as the center. At this moment, there were still many powerful figures around the Crouching Bull Ridge. There were still many powerful figures watching. The shaman kings of the sorcerer race, the other kings of the southern barbarians' 19 feudal vassals other than Fierce Tiger King, North Garrison King, East King, and even the powerful figures from the West Sea, East Baron, Middle Sky, and North Ruins were here. Barbarian Emperor, who was killed by Gu Fei, had once teamed up with the Ghost Emperor of the North Ruins. They were allies. However, after Barbarian Emperor's death, the Ghost Emperor did not come out to avenge him. The Ghost Emperor was extremely cunning and would never provoke Gu Fei for Barbarian Emperor. Actually, Gu Fei had already become famous after killing Barbarian Emperor and trapping Tianhong. At this moment, many powerful figures gathered around the Crouching Bull Ridge to watch the show. Forefather Tianhong was the formation forefather of Ling Tian Palace. If Gu Fei attacked him, it meant that he was going against Ling Tian Palace. Everyone wanted to know what would happen if Gu Fei went against Ling Tian Palace. One should know that Ling Tian Palace was the #1 force in the Void Realm. The legendary Ling Tian Palace Master was known as the #1 person in the Void Realm and was invincible. Was Gu Fei trying to lure out the other powerful figures of Ling Tian Palace by trapping Tianhong? You have guts to not kneel and beg for mercy. Do you really think that I don't dare to kill you? Outside the 5 elements killing formation, Gu Fei looked at forefather Tianhong indifferently with his hands behind his back. Do whatever you want to me. Forefather Tianhong sneered. Forefather Tianhong sure is strong-willed. Do you think that Gu Fei dares to kill forefather Tianhong? That's hard to say. The powerful figures who were watching discussed in low voices. Humph. At this moment, Gu Fei sneered and a powerful divine will exploded from his body. Buzz. The 5 formation discs hidden in the 5 elements killing formation immediately appeared in the void, and countless formation patterns rushed out of the formation discs. 5 kinds of array patterns interweaved, forming a 5 elements killing array. This is When Patriarch Great Hong, who was trapped in the five-element killing array, saw this scene, his eyeballs almost fell to the ground. He had been trapped in this killing array for 16 days. In these 16 days, he did nothing but search for the array board. If he couldn't even find the array disk, how could he break the array? However, in the past 16 days, Ancestor Tian Hong had tried everything he could think of, but could not find the array board of the five-elemental killing formation. This made him extremely depressed. At this moment, Gu Fei actually made the five great array discs appear from the void. What was this guy trying to do? I don't care what you want to do. Break the formation first. Patriarch Great Hong opened his mouth and spat out a divine fire at a green array disc. That array disc was the wood element array disc of the five elements array discs. Fire could subdue wood, and Patriarch Great Hong was a half-step Emperor Realm expert. The true fire he spat out was enough to burn the entire Crouching Bull Ridge into ashes. As long as the wood element array disc was burned, the five elements killing formation would collapse on its own. However, although Patriarch Great Hong's idea was good, the reality was cruel. The true fire that he spat out could not even touch the wood element array disc. An invisible force blocked Patriarch Great Hong's true fire. Trying to break my array? Dream on. Gu Fei said calmly. Even if he allowed Patriarch Great Hong to attack the array disc, Patriarch Great Hong would not be able to damage it at all. How is this possible? Patriarch Great Hong was completely out of control. He attacked the five major array discs with all his might, but it was all in vain. The five elements killing formation continued to devour his energy. Other than sweating profusely and panting heavily, this Patriarch of Lingtian Palace could not shake Gu Fei's five elements killing formation at all. All right, now there are two paths for you to choose, Gu Fei said. Which two choices? Patriarch Great Hong's eyes lit up and asked anxiously. Hearing Gu Fei's words, he still had a chance of survival? Patriarch Great Hong, who was already in despair, naturally did not want to die. As long as there was a chance of survival, he would grab it firmly. The first choice is naturally death, Gu Fei said unhurriedly. What about the second choice? Patriarch Great Hong was extremely anxious. There was no need to think about death. He would definitely not choose it. The second choice is to be my servant, Gu Fei said. Patriarch Great Hong was a half-step Emperor Realm expert, after all. Below the Emperor Realm, a half-step Emperor Realm expert was the strongest existence. Gu Fei was currently lacking such a subordinate. What? Patriarch Great Hong was stunned. He was the Patriarch of Lingtian Palace's Patriarch of Lingtian Palace. How could he be someone's servant? You are unwilling? All right then, I will send you on your way. Gu Fei looked indifferent. To him, killing Patriarch Great Hong was just a matter of snapping his fingers. Don't! Patriarch Great Hong was anxious. He did not want to die. Greetings, Master Tian Hong. Patriarch Great Hong no longer hesitated and immediately knelt down in front of Gu Fei. Humph! Since this is the case, why ask for trouble? Gu Fei waved his right hand, and 9 talismans flew out from his hand. The 9 talismans passed through the 5 elements killing formation and entered Patriarch Great Hong's body. This Patriarch Great Hong was shocked, and his expression changed drastically. Needless to say, the 9 talismans that Gu Fei had entered his body were nothing good. I have already placed a restrictive spell on your body. Your life and death are in my hands. Gu Fei smiled. Patriarch Great Hong could no longer smile. Instead, a layer of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Although he did not have to die, his life was in the hands of Gu Fei. His life and death were no longer up to him. Little brat, it's not good to poach someone. Right at that moment, a heavenly voice suddenly descended from the sky. Then, a white figure walked down from the sky. A faint fragrance permeated the air. Everyone felt as though they were bathed in a spring breeze. Palace. Palace Lord? Patriarch Great Han's face turned pale when he saw the person. The person was shrouded in a white light. No one could see the person's face clearly. In fact, they could not even tell if the person was fat or thin. However, from the voice, it was a woman. Palace Lord? Gu Fei could not help but frown when he saw how frightened Patriarch Great Han was. This person should be the Palace Lord of Ling Tian Palace. The Palace Lord of Ling Tian Palace came personally? Haha, Gu Fei is dead for sure. Chapter 5011. In the sky above the Crouching Bull Ridge, the Ling Tian Palace Master actually descended. This shocked everyone. The Ling Tian Palace Master was known as the #1 person in the Void Realm. In the Void Realm, there were only legends of the Ling Tian Palace Master. No one had ever seen his true face. This time, the Ling Tian Palace Master actually came to South Barbarian personally. Gu Fei was really influential. The appearance of the Ling Tian Palace Master immediately caused an uproar among the surrounding experts who were watching the show. The appearance of the mysterious Ling Tian Palace Master caused an uproar. Even the figure of the West Sea Old Dragon Emperor appeared in the distant sky. The Demon Emperor of the East Baron Demon Clan also came. The eastern sky was filled with demon aura. Compared to the high profile of the Demon Emperor, the Ghostly Emperor was much more low-key. The Ghostly Emperor was definitely here, but he did not show himself. The experts from the Middle Heaven Buddha clan and the Tian clan also hid in the dark and did not show themselves. The news that the Buddha clan and the Tian clan wanted to replace the Ling Tian Palace spread in the Void Realm. The strength of these two powerful clans could not be underestimated. However, the two ancient clans in the Middle Heaven were also very low-key. You are the Ling Tian Palace Master. Gu Fei looked at the glowing woman in front of him and could not help but frown. Even he could not see the woman's appearance and figure. He knew that he had finally met his match in the Void Realm today. What do you think? The Ling Tian Palace Master smiled. At this moment, Gu Fei waved his right hand. The 5 array discs floating in the void immediately shone with a dazzling divine light. The next moment, countless array patterns retreated like the tide and entered the 5 array discs in the sky. The 5 array discs flew back to Gu Fei and landed in his hand. The 5 elements killing array that trapped the array Tao ancestor of the Ling Tian Palace for 16 days was actually taken away by Gu Fei in an instant. This stunned ancestor Tian Hong. Gu Fei's formation, Tao cultivation, left him behind by God, knows how many streets. From Gu Fei, he saw a whole new world of array Tao. You are not from this world. The Ling Tian Palace Master suddenly said. Gu Fei heard this and asked, How do you know? Why don't you guess? Ling Tian Palace Master said with a smile, You're not from this world, are you? Gu Fei activated his martial Tao Heavenly Eye and looked at the Palace Lord of the towering Heaven Palace. The martial path Heavenly Eye could see through all illusions. No illusion could hide from the martial path Heavenly Eyes. Humph. Ling Tian Palace Lord sneered. In the next moment, countless Tao patterns rushed out from her body and imprinted themselves in the void around her. At this moment, the void around the Ling Tian Palace Lord seemed to have opened up a world that belonged to her. Even Gu Fei's martial path, Heavenly Eye, could not see through it. Interesting. Gu Fei smiled. He was even more certain that this Palace Lord Ling Tian wasn't someone from this world. He was an outsider just like him. He had accidentally entered this world when he was breaking through to the Infinity Realm. He was very curious as to how the other party had entered this world. Moreover, the other party had entered this world much earlier than him. This fellow had probably already entered this world during the ancient times of this world. Otherwise, how could she have become the Palace Lord of the towering Heaven Palace? The experts who were watching the show nearby were shocked by the conversation between Gu Fei and the Palace Lord. What was going on? The two of them weren't from the Void Realm? Could it be that they were experts from another world? There had always been a legend in the Void Realm. The legend was that the land of void beginning was connected to the realm of immortality. Whoever could enter the realm of immortality would be able to escape from the cycle of life and death. They would be immortal and exist forever in this world. Could it be that Gu Fei and Lingtian Palace Lord were from the realm of immortality? Little fellow, you stole my servant. How do you think we should deal with this matter? Lingtian Palace Lord said. Sai, you can't blame me for this. This fellow wanted to be my servant no matter what. I couldn't do anything about it. Gu Fei said helplessly. What did you say? Lingtian Palace Lord was speechless. This fellow was really thick-skinned. You can ask him if you don't believe me. Gu Fei looked at old ancestor Tianhong and said. This old ancestor Tianhong was sweating profusely and terrified. He had just been restricted by Gu Fei, and his life was in Gu Fei's hands. If he dared to betray Gu Fei only needed to think about killing him and he would be finished. However, Lingtian Palace Lord was not to be trifled with. She was known as the #1 expert in the Void Realm, as the array formation old ancestor of Lingtian Palace, and one of the higher-ups of Lingtian Palace. No one knew better than old ancestor Tianhong how powerful and terrifying Lingtian Palace Lord was. Tianhong, is what he said true? Lingtian Palace Lord asked. Her voice was calm. This old ancestor Tianhong stuttered and didn't dare to speak at all. All right, it's just a game. Why so serious? Gu Fei smiled. Just a game? Lingtian Palace Lord's voice was still calm. From her tone, no one could tell if she was happy or angry. Why don't we have a game too? Gu Fei suddenly said. Then how do you want to play? Lingtian Palace Lord asked. Let's play like this. After saying that, Gu Fei extended his hand to grab the Lingtian Palace Master. He wanted to see what the Lingtian Palace Master looked like. This guy, seeing this scene, everyone was dumbfounded. This Gu Fei was truly arrogant. He actually dared to attack the Lingtian Palace Master. He must be tired of living. Lingtian Palace Lord was the #1 expert in the Void Realm. Over the years, Lingtian Palace Lord was like a huge mountain that pressed down on the experts in the Void Realm, making them unable to lift their heads. The Sky Clan and Buddha Clan wanted to replace Lingtian Palace. However, everyone knew that as long as Lingtian Palace Lord was around, Lingtian Palace would continue to be above all the forces in the Void Realm. Gu Fei's grab was very powerful. It was like the claw of a 9 heavens real dragon, as though it could tear the void apart. Not bad. Just as Gu Fei's right hand was about to tear the void around Lingtian Palace Lord, a jade-like hand slapped out lightly and collided with Gu Fei's right claw. The jade-like hand retracted and Gu Fei's claw was blocked. What? Gu Fei can actually take a move from Lingtian Palace Lord? Seeing this scene, all the experts' eyeballs almost fell to the ground. Especially the Emperor's. They were even more shocked. Both Gu Fei and Lingtian Palace Lord's cultivation seemed to have surpassed the Emperor realm. How was this possible? Didn't those who surpassed the Emperor realm only exist in legends? Gu Fei is actually so powerful that he can compete with Lingtian Palace Lord? Chapter 5012. The 19 vassal kings of Southern Barbarian were all formidable characters. They were the local emperors of Southern Barbarian and ruled over countless tribes in their territories. These 19 vassal kings had previously submitted to Barbarian sovereign, but now that Barbarian sovereign had been killed by Gu Fei, most of the vassal kings were watching from the sidelines. It should be known that choosing a side was very important. The consequences of choosing the wrong side were also very serious. Choosing the wrong side could cost one's life at any time. Therefore, except for a few vassal kings, the other vassal kings were very cautious. They were all watching from the sidelines and found it difficult to make a decision. The sorcerer race, Gu Fei, and East King. These 3 major forces were established in Southern Barbarian. Now it seemed that Gu Fei was extremely powerful, and was like the sun in the sky. However, the sorcerer race was not to be trifled with. The Sorcerer King had also come out of seclusion, and the sorcerer race was confident. As long as the Sorcerer King was still around, no one dared to underestimate the sorcerer race, and the sorcerer race still had the strength to dominate Southern Barbarian. As for East King, at first glance, he seemed to be the weakest of the three major forces in Southern Barbarian. However, recently, East King had been using Man Yu's name to gather the remnants of Barbarian Sovereign. East King's strength had increased very quickly. Of course, this was still not enough. Even if East King gathered the remnants of Barbarian Sovereign, it would still be difficult for him to compete with Gu Fei or the sorcerer race. However, East King had Ling Tian Palace as his backing. This way, the situation was different. It could not be helped. Ling Tian Palace's status in the Void Realm was so high. Now, no one would have thought that Gu Fei would actually fight against Ling Tian Palace so quickly. First, he trapped the array Dao ancestor of Ling Tian Palace, Tianhong. Now, he directly went against the mysterious palace, Lord of Ling Tian Palace. To everyone's disbelief, the palace Lord of Ling Tian Palace was actually a woman. Moreover, no one could see the appearance of the palace, Lord of Ling Tian Palace. At this time, Gu Fei got into a fighting stance. An extremely powerful aura immediately erupted from his body. This was his self-created fist technique, the divine fist of 5 elements. The power of the 5 elements surged out from his body. It was as if a 5-colored divine fire was ignited on his body. Powerful waves of the 5 elements erupted from Gu Fei's body, causing the surrounding space to tremble. Ripples visible to the naked eye spread out in all directions with him at the center. 5 elements Qi. Palace Master Ling Tian seemed a little surprised. He didn't expect Gu Fei to cultivate the 5 elemental Qi. It should be known that the 5 elemental Qi of the world were the 5 most difficult energies to control in the cultivation world. Again, Fire Dragon breaks the heavens. Gu Fei shouted and threw a punch at Palace Master Ling Tian. A powerful fire elemental Qi erupted from his fist. The fist force turned into a fire dragon, pouncing at Palace Master Ling Tian with its claws and fangs bared. The temperature of the entire world rose rapidly. Even the experts who were watching the battle from a dozen miles away could feel a wave of heat. The energy in their bodies seemed to have been ignited and was about to burn. "I seal!" Palace Master Ling Tian shouted. In the next moment, a terrifying cold air erupted from his body. A cold dragon appeared in the sky and directly breathed a breath of cold air at Gu Fei. Boom! The fire dragon against the ice dragon. The 2 dragons collided in an instant. With an earth-shattering sound, the 2 dragons exploded, and 2 completely different forces erupted. On Gu Fei's side, the fire burned the sky. The area within a dozen miles turned into a sea of fire. Everything that was enveloped by the fire was burned to ashes. Even the stones were cracked. On the other hand, on Palace Master Ling Tian's side, the scene was completely different. The cold air was oppressive. The moment the cold dragon exploded, the area within a dozen miles turned into a world of ice and snow. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. The battle between the 2 was earth-shattering. It was a tie again. Even Palace Master Ling Tian couldn't suppress Gu Fei. Everyone who witnessed this scene found it hard to believe. How was this possible? Could it be that even Palace Master Ling Tian couldn't handle Gu Fei? King Dong was also extremely nervous because his greatest support was Palace Master Ling Tian. If Palace Master Ling Tian couldn't handle Gu Fei, how would King Dong dare to compete with Gu Fei? At this time, the sorcerer kings of the sorcerer tribe also had mixed feelings. Without a sorcerer emperor, no one could compete with Gu Fei. Now that even Palace Master Ling Tian couldn't defeat Gu Fei, the south would be Gu Fei's world. Again, Gu Fei raised his fist, and the boundless fire instantly turned into a monstrous water. It was as if a sea had appeared between the sky and the earth. The next moment, Gu Fei punched out. The endless water fist power turned into a terrifying torrent and rushed towards Palace Master Ling Tian with unstoppable force. "Little guy, you have some skills." Ling Tian Palace Master smiled. In the next moment, a vast amount of earth elemental power burst out from the ground below him. The grayish earth elemental spiritual energy was like a monstrous sandstorm rising high into the sky. An endless amount of earth elemental spiritual energy gathered behind Ling Tian Palace Master, forming a human figure that was even larger than a mountain. Everyone was dumbfounded at the sight of this. Even the emperors who were secretly watching the battle were moved. This was because the giant behind Ling Tian Palace Master, which was formed from endless earth elemental spiritual energy, emitted a powerful yuan qi fluctuation that was much stronger than the emperor's full strength, using earth to defeat water. Gu Fei's eyes lit up when he saw this. At this moment, the huge figure pushed forward with both hands, and boundless earth elemental power rushed towards the rushing torrent. Rumble! The entire void shook. The water elemental power and earth elemental power kept colliding, intertwining, and canceling each other out. The mighty energy storm swept through the sky and the earth. Even the peak of Crouching Bull Mountain was shattered. When the two forces collided, the energy storm spread in all directions. The area with a radius of 10 miles was razed to the ground. This kind of power was enough to destroy the world. Everyone's souls were trembling. There was nothing they could do. This scene was too shocking. Even the martial emperors were shocked. The combat power displayed by Gu Fei and Palace Master Ling Tian was too strong. It was no wonder that Emperor Man died in the hands of Gu Fei. 5-element fist. Gu Fei's fist power was fully unleashed. The true power of the 5-element fist was earth-shattering. Every punch caused ripples that were visible to the naked eye to appear in the void. Palace Master Ling Tian was not bad. He also displayed the 5-element divine power and fought with Gu Fei. For a moment, the two powerhouses were locked in battle. What surprised Gu Fei was that Palace Master Ling Tian had been using the 5-element divine power to condense figures to fight with Gu Fei. Chapter 5013. Ling Tian Palace Master stood in the void. Endless spiritual qi of the 5 elements gathered around her. 5 silhouettes condensed in the void around her. Each of the silhouettes represented one of the 5 elements. This was Ling Tian Palace Master's 5 elements divine ability. Each of the 5 figures condensed by the power of the 5 elements was tyrannical, and each of them had the power of an emperor. Today, I will play with you with my 5 elements incarnation. Palace, Lord Ling Tian said. Her heavenly voice seemed to have some kind of inconceivable power, causing everyone's soul to tremble. Those with weaker cultivations almost lost control of their minds, as though their souls were about to be hooked away. External incarnation technique, Gu Fei said while attacking. At this time, Ling Tian Palace Master's Earth incarnation had already become the size of a normal person and was fighting with Gu Fei. Bang! Gu Fei punched out, and the fire elemental power was like a volcanic eruption, directly blasting Ling Tian Palace Master's fire incarnation thousands of meters away. Ling Tian Palace Master's Earth incarnation became dim. However, the Earth Essence Qi continued to rise from the ground and enter Ling Tian Palace Master's Earth incarnation. This Earth incarnation solidified once again. Ling Tian Palace Master's 5 incarnations could absorb the world's spiritual qi and turn it into their own power. At this time, the other clones of Ling Tian Palace Master also made their move. For figures pounced towards Li Kuang at lightning speed. Rumble! The power of Gu Fei's 5 elements fist burst out. The fist energy was mighty and indestructible, and it actually blocked the 5 incarnations of Ling Tian Palace Master. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. 5 kinds of power appeared on Gu Fei's body at the same time, and they reached a perfect balance. The 5 kinds of power did not conflict with each other. However, in the hands of Gu Fei, these 5 kinds of power burst out with the most powerful power. At this moment, the entire sky was illuminated with 5 different colors. Everyone looked at this scene in shock. This was the collision of the power of the 5 elements. It was like the creation of heaven and earth, as if it was evolving into a new world. Countless Tao patterns intertwined in the void, and all the 5 elements' divine light were like countless sharp blades, slicing through the void, and the void seemed to be riddled with holes. Muffled collisions resounded continuously. The 5 clones of the Ling Tian Palace Master were continuously sent flying. However, the 5 clones could not be destroyed no matter what. In fact, Gu Fei was also very clear that as long as the original body was present, the avatar would never be destroyed. There was only one way to destroy these avatars, and that was to kill Palace Master Ling Tian. However, it was obvious that it would not be easy to kill the Ling Tian Palace Master. Moreover, Gu Fei had never thought of killing the Ling Tian Palace Master. He was very curious about which world the Ling Tian Palace Master came from. At this moment, everyone who was watching the battle nearby was shocked by this battle. Even the emperors were the same. The intensity of this battle had long exceeded their expectations. Gu Fei's strength had also far exceeded the expectations of the emperors. At this moment, Ancestor Tianhong was extremely depressed. It was really too difficult for him. He had just become Gu Fei's slave, and their Lord Palace Master had already come to kill him. How could he live like this? Helping Gu Fei to fight Palace Master Ling Tian was courting death. If he were to help Palace Master Ling Tian, Gu Fei, it was simply suicide. Now, Ancestor Tianhong did not dare to choose a side at all. Master! In the distant sky, West Sea Old Dragon Emperor and West Sea Dragon Clan's little princess, Long Xiaozhou, stood on the clouds. When they saw Gu Fei fighting Palace Master Ling Tian, Long Xiaozhou was immediately dumbfounded. Your master is very powerful. West Sea Old Dragon Emperor touched Long Xiaozhou's head and said, letting Long Xiaozhou become Gu Fei's disciple was really a wise choice. Becoming a disciple of an expert like Gu Fei would definitely benefit the West Sea Dragon Clan beyond imagination. Father, do you think Master will win? Long Xiaozhou was very worried because Gu Fei's opponent was the #1 expert in the Void Realm, the mysterious and unpredictable Palace Master Ling Tian. This, you really can't answer me. West Sea Old Dragon Emperor's face turned red. He really could not see the depth of these 2 people. Their cultivation level had already surpassed this old antique who had dominated the West Sea for countless years. Forget about Palace Master Ling Tian. He was an existence that even West Sea Old Dragon Emperor had to bow down to. However, West Sea Old Dragon Emperor was very surprised that Gu Fei was so powerful. West Sea Old Dragon Emperor had already sent the experts of the West Sea to investigate Gu Fei's background. This Gu Fei simply appeared out of thin air. Moreover, after his debut, he swept through all the way. No one was a match for him at all. In the end, even the Barbarian Emperor was killed by him. Now, this Gu Fei was going up against Palace Master Ling Tian, an invincible existence. Although West Sea Old Dragon Emperor had cultivated for countless years, his cultivation level was far from the point of surpassing the Emperor realm. This Gu Fei, the shaman kings of the sorcerer tribe knew that the South Barbarian probably had nothing to do with them anymore. If Gu Fei was killed by Palace Master Ling Tian, then everything would be fine. If Palace Master Ling Tian didn't kill Gu Fei, then the South Barbarian would be Gu Fei's world. Because if even Palace Master Ling Tian couldn't kill Gu Fei, then who else in this world could threaten Gu Fei? In the entire South Barbarian, who else would dare to compete with Gu Fei? At that time, even if the Shaman King appeared, it would be useless. Because no matter how strong the Shaman King was, could he be stronger than Palace Master Ling Tian? Swoosh! Just as Gu Fei was fighting against the 5 incarnations of Palace Master Ling Tian, A divine light shot out from Palace Master Ling Tian. It directly pierced through the void and immediately pierced through Gu Fei's left shoulder. Blood suddenly appeared, and every drop was blooming with bright divine light. It was as if a divine sun had appeared between heaven and earth, illuminating the whole world. "Ha! I didn't expect you to be so unlucky." "You are too unlucky." Palace Master Ling Tian laughed. "Unlucky?" Everyone was stunned when they heard Palace Master Ling Tian's words. Gu Fei was unlucky? This guy was already so strong, but he was still unlucky? If this was unlucky, then everyone present was willing to be this unlucky. Humph. Aren't you also an unlucky guy? What's there to be proud of? Gu Fei said disdainfully. However, he was still very surprised because this Palace Master Ling Tian could actually injure him. It should be known that Gu Fei's martial body was the real infinite martial body. Even an extreme Dao tool or even an eternal Dao tool couldn't hurt him at all. This Palace Master Ling Tian could actually injure him, which meant that this Palace Master Ling Tian was also an existence of the infinite prime realm, and her cultivation should have almost recovered. However, Gu Fei was not afraid of this guy, because even if the other party could defeat him, she couldn't kill him. Chapter 5014. Gu Fei's martial body was the infinite martial body. Although his cultivation was suppressed by this world, he was still far from recovering his infinite prime cultivation. But even so, Lingtian Palace Master could not kill him. At this moment, everyone stared at the countless droplets of blood that were like divine suns falling from the sky. Every single droplet of blood exploded with an unimaginably powerful aura of life. The entire world was filled with endless vitality. Withered trees sprouted and withered flowers bloomed again. Even the rocks had sprouted blades of grass. Everyone nearby felt that their blood and qi had become more vigorous. The speed of their yuan qi circulation was also much faster than usual. This is peerless blood. One drop can regenerate flesh and bones from the dead. This is more useful than any divine medicine. All the experts were shocked to the extreme. Gu Fei's blood was actually such a peerless blood. It was too unbelievable. However, the precious blood in everyone's eyes suddenly flew back to Gu Fei and entered Gu Fei's body. The bloody hole on his left shoulder that was pierced by Lingtian Palace Master also healed at a visible speed. When Gu Fei's blood was retracted, the extremely powerful vitality in the world instantly disappeared. Everyone looked at Gu Fei as if they were hungry wolves that had seen a piece of fat meat, and they wished for nothing more than to skin him alive. Humph! Facing the countless hungry, wolf-like gazes, Gu Fei only sneered. A shocking aura immediately exploded from his body. It was like a supreme god had appeared in the world and was looking down on the common people. Everyone felt an extremely powerful pressure pressing down on them, causing them to almost be unable to straighten their backs. "Do you still want to fight?" Lingtian Palace Master's heavenly voice sounded. How can I fight? You can't kill me, and I can't do anything to you." Gu Fei shrugged and said, "Yes, that's really the case. Your physical body cannot be destroyed by the heavens and buried by the earth. If anyone wants to kill you, they will have to do it." Palace Master Ling Tian muttered. "Who are those people?" Gu Fei was a little curious, but he could vaguely guess who the people Ling Tian Palace Master was talking about were. "What do you think?" Palace Master Ling Tian did not say it clearly. "Return." At this moment, the Ling Tian Palace Master let out a soft cry. Her 5 clones that were fighting with Gu Fei flew back to the Ling Tian Palace Master and entered her body. "Do what you want, but don't disturb my cultivation." As Ling Tian Palace Master spoke, he turned into a beam of divine light and soared into the sky, instantly disappearing from the world. Everyone was dumbfounded when they heard this. If even Ling Tian Palace Master couldn't deal with Gu Fei, then who else in this world could deal with Gu Fei? "We are willing to submit." One powerful figure after another walked over from the distance, and knelt in front of Gu Fei. These were the vassal kings who were still watching. This time, there were 9 vassal kings who came out, which shocked everyone who saw the scene, including Fierce Tiger King and North Garrison King, who had submitted to Gu Fei. There were a total of 11 vassal kings who had submitted to Gu Fei. These were 11 vassal kings. Everyone knew what this meant. This was equivalent to more than half of South China falling into the hands of Gu Fei. Only East King and the Sorcerer tribe had not expressed their stance. Among the Sorcerer tribe, one of the candidates for the Saintess, the Heaven Shaman Priest, had some friendship with Gu Fei. They seemed to be engaged. Of course, Gu Fei did not have any thoughts about the Sorcerer tribe, because fighting for hegemony was not his real goal. Fighting for hegemony was just a means to achieve his goal. This kind of scheming was not suitable for him. As long as he had enough power, all kinds of schemes and tricks were useless. Moreover, Gu Fei did not have any concerns in this world. He had only accepted 2 disciples. A person who had no concerns was the most terrifying because no one could use his family and friends to threaten him. In the mortal world, Gu Fei had his weaknesses. His weaknesses were his wife, daughter, brothers, and disciples. But in the mortal world, Gu Fei had no weaknesses. He had no weaknesses. At this time, East King had already retreated quietly. Gu Fei brought the vassal kings and old ancestor Tianhong back to the South China royal capital. However, there were still some vassal kings who were still watching. Relying on Lingtian Palace seemed to be an option. After all, Lingtian Palace Master was in existence that could suppress Gu Fei. Wasn't East King the representative of Lingtian Palace in South China? Even Lingtian Palace Master couldn't kill Gu Fei. What should we do? In the main hall of East King's mansion, Man Yu's angry and unwilling roar resounded. The result of the battle between Lingtian Palace Master and Gu Fei had already reached Man Yu's ears. Man Yu was naturally dumbfounded. The one who attacked was Lingtian Palace Master, the publicly acknowledged #1 person in the world. Even such an existence couldn't kill Gu Fei. Didn't that mean that no one in the world was a match for Gu Fei? Second Master, have you forgotten about that place? East King smiled. What place? You mean? Man Yu's face was suddenly filled with fear. Only the existence of that place can kill Gu Fei. East King continued. Extreme Devil Cave? Man Yu squeezed out these 3 words with difficulty. Rumble. When Man Yu said these 3 words, a thunderclap resounded above East King Mansion. These 3 words seemed to have angered the heavens. This is the only way to kill Gu Fei. East King's face turned sinister. How could Southern Man fall into the hands of Gu Fei? Man Yu looked at East King with flickering eyes. He knew that East King wasn't a good person. Barbarian Emperor once told him that East King was very ambitious and shouldn't be too close to him. But now that Barbarian Emperor was killed by Gu Fei, Man Yu could only rely on East King. East King wanted to use Man Yu's influence to gather the remaining forces of Barbarian Emperor and strengthen himself. Both of them took what they needed, and each had their own ulterior motives. Second Master, don't hesitate. Don't you want to take revenge for your father's death? East King said coldly. All right. Man Yu nodded heavily. He decided to head to Extreme Devil Cave. Second Master, if you don't be ruthless to yourself, how can you be ruthless to your enemies? This king will send people to escort you to Extreme Devil Cave. As East King spoke, he immediately summoned the experts under him. Soon, one powerful figure after another walked into the hall from outside. Man Yu was shocked to discover that the weakest among them was a peak god king. There were also 3 peerless experts at the half-step emperor realm. Man Yu had been in the Eastern King Mansion for so long, but he had never seen these people before. Chapter 50:15. The East King's ambition could no longer be hidden because he had been preparing for 1,000 years. It had to be said that the East King really had the strength to dominate the southern wilderness. Behind him was the Lingtian Palace, with the Ling Tian Palace's name who would dare to touch him. Moreover, he had gathered a lot of experts. Whether it was threats or promises, or taking in those vicious fellows, his strength had increased greatly. At this time, Gu Fei was like the sun in the sky. He was unstoppable. 11 of the 19 vassal kings of the southern wilderness had pledged their allegiance to Gu Fei. Although the remaining vassal kings were still observing, they didn't have much time left. If they didn't choose a side now, they wouldn't have to. Although Gu Fei had fought with the Ling Tian Palace Master, this battle didn't change the power structure of the southern wilderness. The entire southern wilderness was still in a tripartite situation. The Witch race, the East King, and Gu Fei still controlled the entire southern wilderness. The external forces of the southern wilderness also seemed to be restless. However, the Eastern Wasteland Demon race and the West Sea Dragon race had failed to invade the southern wilderness. This was a lesson learned. However, the strength of the Middle Heaven was much stronger than the Eastern Wasteland Demon race and the West Sea Dragon race. Both the Buddha race and the Heavenly race had Emperor Realm existences. Moreover, these two forces had more than one Emperor Realm expert. This was the confidence of the Middle Heaven Buddha bead and the Heavenly race. The Ghost Emperor of the North Ruins didn't move either. No one knew what he was planning. However, Gu Fei wasn't afraid of anyone. At this time, Man Yu was heading to the extreme Devil Cave under the protection of the 10 experts sent by the East King. Among the 10 experts sent by the East King, 3 were half-step Emperor Realm existences, and 7 were peak Divine Kings. These 10 experts said that they were protecting Man Yu, but they were actually monitoring him. The extreme Devil Cave was located in the Middle Heaven. The place Gu Fei wanted to go to was also in the Middle Heaven. The land of void beginning was also in the Middle Heaven. The mysterious Heavenly race was the protector of the land of void beginning. The extreme Devil Cave was in the territory of the Buddha race. The Buddha race had shouldered the heavy responsibility of guarding the extreme Devil Cave for countless years. The entire void realm could be in chaos except for the land of void beginning and the extreme Demon Cave. This was because the empty beginning land and the extreme Demon Cave were forbidden areas. No one could easily enter these two places because they were related to the safety of the entire void realm. At this moment, Man Yu placed his last hope on extreme Demon Cave. Just when Man Yu was being protected by the 10 experts of East King and quietly leaving southern barbaric land, Gu Fei went into seclusion again. He directly threw everything to his subordinates. He wanted to increase his cultivation again, and then prepare to go to the empty beginning land to find a way to leave this world. He could not stay in the empty world forever. If he stayed in the void realm, he might be able to unify the 5 great regions and become the world lord of the void realm. However, to him, the void realm was too small. His stage was in the limitless realm. Limitless was his goal. Southern barbaric royal capital, in the underground dragon vein. Gu Fei sat cross-legged in the void. This place was not dark because there was a huge dragon of unknown length emitting a bright divine light. This huge dragon was not a real dragon, but a huge dragon condensed from the essence of the earth. The essence of the earth in the entire southern barbaric land was gathering towards this huge dragon. The southern barbaric royal capital was actually built on the ancestral dragon vein of southern barbaric land, because all the dragon veins of southern barbaric land originated from here. Gu Fei wanted to use the ancestral dragon vein of southern barbaric land to break through the shackles of his current cultivation. He wanted to recover his 9 paths of cultivation and then go to the land of void beginning. The land of void beginning was mysterious. For countless years, no one knew the truth of the land of void beginning. Moreover, the land of void beginning was guarded by the heaven race. Even peerless experts of the Emperor realm couldn't enter. At this time, even the heaven race and the Buddha race would never have thought that someone would dare to have designs on the land of void beginning and the extreme demon cave. Let's begin. Gu Fei, who was sitting cross-legged in the ancestral vein of southern barbaric land, circulated his mysterious technique. The dense earth spirit energy in the surroundings immediately gathered towards him. Soon, Gu Fei was enveloped by a ball of divine light. His entire body seemed to have transformed into a huge cocoon, waiting for the moment to break out of the cocoon and become a butterfly. Master actually went into seclusion at this time. This is too casual. In the palace hall of the southern barbaric royal capital, Long Xiaozhou sat on the dragon throne with his legs crossed. He was eating a thumb-sized spirit fruit that the maid handed him. "Junior sister, you are Master's disciple. You represent Master's face. You have to pay attention to your image." Xiaoya, who was standing at the side, said in an old-fashioned manner, "Why are you like an old man, little fellow?" Long Xiaozhou glanced at Xiaoya and said disapprovingly. Xiaoya was speechless. This junior sister of hers was really different. She was the princess of the Western Sea Dragon clan, but she didn't have any of the noble aura that a princess should have. Instead, she was a little devil who caused trouble everywhere. At this moment, there were 11 extremely powerful figures standing in the hall. Every single one of them had an extremely powerful aura. Although they were standing there quietly, they were like towering mountains that stood between the heavens and the earth. 11 vassal kings. When the 11 of them stood together, the aura they formed was something that even ordinary godly kings couldn't withstand. "Your Highness, look!" the old high priest, who had been following Xiaoya, said respectfully to her. He wanted to say something, but stopped himself. The old high priest's cultivation was really pitifully low, but he had a talisman on him. With this talisman, he could completely ignore the shocking aura of the vassal kings. "What are you looking at? All of you go back and guard your current territories. Wait for Master to come out of seclusion." Xiaoya glanced at the vassal kings in the hall and said, "Your Highness, the Witch Clan and East King are eyeing us covetously. If Master doesn't show himself, how are we going to deal with them?" The fierce Tiger King said as he stood up, "Just guard your territory. When Master comes out of seclusion, he'll kill all those disobedient people. The Sorcerer Tribe, East King, they're all useless. Are they stronger than Palace Master Ling Tian?" Xiaoya said coldly, "Hee, little senior sister is right. Since Master is in seclusion, it's only natural for him to break through to the next realm. When Master comes out, his cultivation base will definitely improve greatly. At that time, I'm afraid that even Palace Master Ling Tian will not be a match for Master." Long Xiaozhou chuckled. The vassal kings in the hall couldn't help but be shocked when they heard that. If Gu Fei's cultivation could really improve, then the Witch Clan and East King wouldn't be a threat at all. One had to know that Gu Fei could already fight against an invincible existence like Palace Lord Ling Tian. "Yes, we will take our leave." The fierce Tiger King and the others hurriedly cupped their hands at Xiaoya and Long Xiaozhou before leaving the hall. Chapter 5016. Middle Heaven was one of the 5 regions of the Void Realm. It was also the central region of the Void Realm. Among the 5 regions, Middle Heaven was the most prosperous region. Eastern Wasteland, Western Sea, Southern Barbarian, and North Ruins, added together, couldn't compare to Middle Heaven. This was because the Buddha race and the Heavenly race had more than one Emperor Realm expert. Moreover, besides the Buddha race and the Heavenly race, Middle Heaven also had other powerful sects and cultivation clans. For example, the Battle Sect, the Heavenly Dao Sect, and the Iron Blood Heavenly Wolf Gang. These were the top forces in Middle Heaven besides the Buddha race and the Heavenly race. Under the protection of the 10 experts sent by East King, Manu entered the territory of Middle Sky and rushed to Extreme Devil Cave. Middle Heaven was vast, but no one could unify it and become its overlord. The major forces fought each other for territory and cultivation resources. The whole of Middle Heaven was not peaceful. Barbarian, you came from the south and entered the southern part of the central sky. This place was the territory of the Battle Sect. The headquarters of the Battle Sect was located in Battle City. If one wanted to go to Extreme Devil Cave, the shortest route was to pass through Battle City. If they took a detour, it would take them a few more days to reach Extreme Devil Cave. Man Yu, who was eager for revenge, couldn't wait any longer. He wanted nothing more than to quickly obtain invincible power and go back to take revenge on Gu Fei. At this time, Gu Fei was in the ancestral earth vein below the southern barbarian royal capital. He was using the endless earth spirit energy to attack his cultivation shackles. The endless essence of the earth constantly gathered towards the light cocoon that Gu Fei had transformed into. 9 types of Tao patterns kept appearing on the large cocoon. The aura of the 9 great Taos surged out of the cocoon. The inside of the cocoon seemed to be nurturing a world. The 9 great Taos collided and intertwined inside the cocoon. The power of the great Taos was vast. Gu Fei wanted to condense the 9 great Taos again and recover his eternal realm cultivation. In the Void Realm, the Emperor Realm was publicly recognized as the strongest cultivation realm. Realms above the Emperor Realm only existed in legends. However, if Gu Fei were to successfully condense the power of the 9 Taos and restore his eternal realm cultivation, then his cultivation would definitely be above the Emperor Realm. Gu Fei's seclusion was originally a very secret matter, but very quickly the news of Gu Fei's seclusion spread throughout the southern barbarian royal capital. This infuriated Xiaoya. She immediately summoned the fierce Tiger King and the North Vanquishing King and asked them to investigate who had leaked the information. This was because only Xiaoya, Long Xiaozhou, the old high priest, and the 11 vassal kings knew that Gu Fei was in seclusion. It was impossible for anyone else to know that Gu Fei was in seclusion. Very soon, the fierce Tiger King and the North Vanquishing King took action, and the atmosphere of the entire southern man's royal capital immediately became tense. Gu Fei actually went into seclusion at this time. In one of the palaces of the witch race in the southern barbarian royal capital, the Grand Witch King summoned the other witch kings. Currently, there were only 7 witch kings left in the witch race. This was because the witch king Wu Ying had been killed by Gu Fei. Gu Fei had killed Wu Ying, but the witch race did not punish him. This made the other forces of southern barbarian very surprised. The witch race actually admitted defeat in front of Gu Fei. This is a good opportunity. The witch king, Wu Zhao, said, "Good my ass. Have you forgotten how Wu Ying died?" Wu Fong sneered. When the witch kings heard this, their expressions changed. This Gu Fei was a ruthless person. He even dared to wave his fist at the Lingtian Palace master. If they angered him, the consequences would be very serious. Wu Ying was a good example. We don't have to go against Gu Fei, but we can give them a little pressure. Wu Zhao said with a gloomy face, "Give them a little pressure?" The other witch kings looked at Wu Zhao curiously. "How?" Wu Fong asked. "The army is here, but we don't do anything." Wu Zhao said with a solemn face. "What, just for show?" All the witch kings were stunned. "That's right, just for show. Pretend that we will attack fierce Tiger King and the rest at any time. If they can't take it anymore and attack us first, then we will give them a head-on blow." Wu Zhao said with his teeth clenched. His gaze became extremely sharp. When the witch kings heard this, their eyes lit up. This is a good idea. No matter how strong Gu Fei is, he can't be unreasonable. When that time comes, he can't blame us. All the witch kings nodded in agreement, because there was no risk in doing so. If the other party became overly nervous and attacked them first, it would definitely be a rare opportunity for the sorcerer tribe. It would be a legitimate opportunity for them to deal a heavy blow to Gu Fei's forces. Soon, the army of the witch race took action. In particular, Wu Zhao's army directly gathered in a city less than 500 miles away from fierce Tiger King's residence. They set up camp there and built fortifications. Wu Zhao's action really frightened the fierce Tiger King, because Wu Zhao put on a formation to attack fierce Tiger King at any time. No one knew if this witch King Wu Zhao really wanted to attack fierce Tiger King. Fierce Tiger King directly sent the most elite fierce tiger army to Flying Tiger City to confront Black Wolf City, where Wu Zhao was. The unusual action of the witch race immediately attracted the attention of all parties. One must know that at this sensitive time, any unusual action of the three major forces of southern China would attract attention. The news of Gu Fei's seclusion had already spread throughout southern China. Even the forces of other regions had received this news. Everyone was puzzled as to why Gu Fei didn't take the opportunity to expand his territory but chose to seclusion. Could it be that he really wanted to fight with Ling Tian Palace Master? Some people guessed that the reason why Gu Fei went into seclusion was to make a breakthrough in his cultivation and then fight with Ling Tian Palace Master. Of course, no matter what the reason for Gu Fei's seclusion was, it made the major forces eager to make a move. One must know that after Gu Fei killed Barbarian Sovereign, he left behind a lot of territories that he didn't have time to control. Now, these places had become ownerless, and all the forces wanted a piece of the pie. As a result, the entire southern China became turbulent again. Fierce Tiger King and Witch King Wu Zhao were confronting each other. For a moment, the atmosphere between Flying Tiger City and Black Wolf City was extremely tense. A storm was brewing. The major forces had a show to watch again. Dong Wang also took action. He directly sent troops to take over 3 cities. These 3 cities were controlled by the remaining forces of Barbarian Sovereign. Xiao Yu originally wanted to send people to take over these 3 cities. But who would have thought that Dong Wang would beat her to it? This made Xiao Yu furious, but she couldn't do anything about it. Gu Fei was in seclusion. No one could do anything to Dong Wang because Dong Wang was an expert. Dong Wang actually dared to snatch Gu Fei's food. When Gu Fei comes out of seclusion, there will be a good show to watch. Chapter 5017. After Gu Fei went into seclusion, only goddess Xiao Yu came forward to manage everything. However, Xiao Yu was too young, and her cultivation level was only at the god realm. She couldn't convince the masses at all. However, Xiao Yu was Gu Fei's disciple after all. Therefore, the 11 vassal lords who sided with Gu Fei didn't dare to be disloyal. As for Tian Hong, who was originally the array formation ancestor of Ling Tian Palace, he was planted with a restrictive spell by Gu Fei, so he didn't dare to betray Gu Fei. With the 11 vassal lords and ancestor Tian Hong holding down the fort, the other forces couldn't do anything for the time being. Moreover, Gu Fei's other disciple was the little princess of the West Sea Dragon clan, Long Xiaozhou. Therefore, the West Sea Dragon clan naturally stood on Gu Fei's side. The West Sea Dragon clan was an extremely powerful clan. Even in the entire Void Realm, no force dared to look down on the West Sea Dragon clan. At this time, Long Xiaozhou was cultivating the array formation, Dao, taught by Gu Fei in the cultivation room of South Man Royal Capital. The situation in South Man Royal Capital was unstable. The West Sea Dragon clan naturally wouldn't let their little princess fall into danger. They sent many experts into South Man Royal Capital. Xiao Yu allowed the experts of the West Sea Dragon clan to enter and leave South Man Royal Capital freely. At this time, Gu Fei's seclusion had reached the most critical juncture. In the dragon vein deep under South Man Royal Capital, there was a huge cocoon of light floating in front of the dragon-shaped ancestral vein. Countless Dao patterns were intertwined. However, among the countless Dao patterns, there were 9 Dao patterns that were incomparably bright. The other Dao patterns were gradually devoured by these 9 Dao patterns. Inside the cocoon of light, Gu Fei was re-evolving the 9 Dao patterns, and the progress was smooth. The power of the 9 Great Dao was gradually recovering in his body. His power was just suppressed. As long as the laws of heaven and earth recognized him, his power would be awakened. Just a little bit more, Gu Fei, who was enveloped by the endless divine light of the Great Dao, emitted an unparalleled might. It was as if a terrifying ancient beast had awakened from its slumber. Time flowed by. Man Yu and the others arrived at the headquarters of the Battle Sect, near Battle City. Man, you stood on a mountain several miles away from the city and gazed at Battle City. He couldn't help but sigh in admiration. The scale of this huge city was almost comparable to the southern barbarian royal capital. This Battle City was not only a large city, it was also very prosperous. There was an endless stream of horses and carriages in the city, and it was extremely lively. There was a large trading market here, and every day there would be countless cultivators exchanging for cultivation resources. If one was lucky, they might even be able to pick up some scraps. In addition, auctions were frequently held here, and there would often be powerful existences appearing in Battle City. The sect master of the Battle Gate was in existence with 1 foot in the Emperor realm. What a huge city! Man Yu exclaimed. To a certain extent, this place is even more prosperous than the southern barbarian capital. Things that can't be found in the southern barbarian capital can often be found here. A hunchbacked old man beside Man Yu looked at the huge city ahead with a complicated gaze. This person was called Mu Tianfeng, and he was the leader of the 10 experts sent by the East King. He was also the strongest among them. In the cultivation world, appearance, origin, and so on weren't important. The most important thing was cultivation and combat strength. Only those with powerful cultivation and combat strength could be the boss. This hunchbacked old man looked unprepossessing, but no one dared to underestimate him. Even Man Yu was polite to him, not daring to show any disrespect. "Let's go, enter the city." Man Yu waved his hand and walked down the mountain with large strides. The 10 experts sent by the East King exchanged glances and hurriedly chased after Man Yu. Sect Master, the target, has appeared. Battle City, in the main hall of the city, Lord's Mansion. A middle-aged man reported to the Sect Master. "Very good, continue to watch." The famous Sect Master of the Battle Gate sat on the throne in the middle of the main hall. "Yes." After the middle-aged man received the order, he directly left the main hall. "Sect Master, since that person is here, why don't we capture him and sell a favor to that person from the West Sea?" A black-bearded old man, sitting on the left side of the throne, looked at the Battle Gate Master in confusion. "Let's wait and see first." The Battle Gate Master said in a deep voice, "The implications of making a move on that guy are too great." The higher-ups of the Battle Gate were very clear about this point. Man Yu was too arrogant. He actually swaggered into Battle City without any intention of hiding his identity. He was now a big shot, the only son of Man Emperor among the 3 sons of Man Emperor. The major forces in Middle Sky were also paying attention to the situation in South Man Emperor. Because Man Yu was the only son of Man Emperor, his portrait had already spread throughout the major forces in the Void Realm. Naturally, the Battle Gate also had a portrait of Man Emperor. As soon as Man Yu entered the city, the eyes of the Battle Gate were on him. Soon, Mu Tianfeng, who was beside Man Yu, felt that something was wrong. They were being watched, and there were many people watching them. They were really unhappy. If Man Yu had disguised himself, would there have been so much trouble? Mu Tianfeng's heart suddenly stirred. Could Man Yu be doing this on purpose? One must know that although East King was polite to the son of Man Emperor on the surface, the son of Man Emperor was just a puppet. Everyone was well aware of this. Man Yu was also very clear of his situation. East King wanted to use Man Yu's identity as the son of Man Emperor to strengthen his own forces. Although East King had sent 10 experts to escort Man Yu to Extreme Devil Cave, Mu Tianfeng and the others were actually monitoring Man Yu. "Senior Mu, why don't we find an inn and stay for a night before leaving?" Man Yu walked on the street and looked around. He seemed to be very interested in the things around him. "Second Master, we are already being watched. I think we should leave the city quickly." Mu Tianfeng said expressionlessly, "What, we're being watched?" Man Yu was shocked when he heard that. He looked a little flustered. When Mu Tianfeng saw Man Yu's expression, he was even more certain that his guess was right. Man Yu was doing this on purpose. He sneered in his heart. Continue acting. I reckon that you won't be able to escape my grasp." As one of the top experts under East King, Mu Tianfeng naturally had the confidence to be arrogant. He didn't put those people who were watching them in the dark in his eyes. Even if the sect master of the battle gate, Wang Dozhan, acted personally, he wouldn't be afraid. And let's leave the city quickly. Don't complicate matters. Mu Tianfeng said coldly. This man, you wanted to say something, but hesitated. In the end, he didn't say anything. The group walked along the street and passed through the city, heading towards the north gate. What are these guys rushing to do? When Wang Dozhan received the news, he couldn't help but frown. Keep an eye on those guys. Don't act rashly, Wang Dozhan ordered. Very soon, a large number of disciples of the battle gate moved.